SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 365. I am your Switch 2 sponsored but not really host for this episode, Spencer Presley, and joining me is a very special Monolith fellatio enjoyer. I think that's what your business card says. We could probably get that on a business card if we tried. But May, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Did you just imagine like what an actual business card that just says Monolith fellatio enjoyer would look like?
It's just Monolith Glazer.
Listen, I feel like if you work at Monolith, you gotta know that like your fans are like some real knob slobbers. Like there's no, oh yeah, I'm a casual Monolith fan. I do like a slide. I do like a dry little side jerk. I do that every now and then. Like the real Monolith, yeah, the real Monolith fans commit. They give it the old college try.
Just a nice pillow for the knees and stuff. And...
The only thing listen. Now that we've got Xenoblade X, the only thing we ask for is just knee pads and chapstick. That's all us Xenoblade fans are asking for. But May, how have you been recently?
I've been doing good. Recently I've just been playing No Lifing Cross and enjoying that. And then also just like doing more stuff with Twitch. But that's been mostly it. Just focusing on those two things.
I miss streaming. I feel like my problem though is like perpetually I'm always like, ooh, I don't want to get back to this, or oh, I miss doing this. When I realize like my amount of free time to get things done versus trying to lie to myself and do any amount of like my hobbies is just it's me just perpetually disappointing myself.
Yeah, that usually happens here. It's like it is kind of hard to like want to stream all the time, because then I want to do other stuff like, oh, I want to start like working on making games, or I want to write this thing, and it's like, fuck, man, like whichever is easier to do right now.
Yeah, my big one, especially in the last like 2 weeks, has been I have like 2 videos I really want to do and knock out, but the problem is every time I'm about to sit down and get one going, something either gets announced or also gets put out there. I'm like, oh man, I don't really want to do this, or oh, I really want to make a video about that. And I'm like, man, I just got to say fuck it to one of these videos and just knock out one. Because I know once I get into the process of like my goal of like 1 week be one show, one video, and just get that going for like a month, I can just train my dumb brain into finally making that happen again. But, yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. Yesterday, we're recording this, most likely on the day you're hearing this, or at least the day it's getting uploaded, of April 2nd. My initial plan this week was I had an intricate plan for a April Fool's Day episode in the form of talking about Nintendo. I was gonna the whole gist of it was gonna be changing SMTN and making it stand for Spencer Mostly Talks Nintendo, and just pretend that it's my very long-running, never-existing, actually, Nintendo podcast, where we talk about the Nintendo Direct from last week, where also I would bring up Raidou and a bunch of other stuff. And then I was like, for April Fools, this totally makes sense, because it's at least me doing something different, but also not doing, like... Because, like, I don't know if it's just because of how much older I get, but especially, like, the shit you see on Twitter, which I feel like is way less nowadays, but, like, hey, guy making up port of Devil Survivor 1 coming to Steam Deck this month, like, not funny. It's like, I don't know if I had to break it to you, but, yeah, telling the internet that, like, Persona 5 Tactica is getting DLC, like, maybe fooled, like, one dude, that's about it. But it's just really funny, because, like, I was like, okay, the timing makes sense. I can get this done, and it would be a fun way to talk about the Nintendo Direct. But I was like, I'm just gonna want to fucking talk about the Switch 2 tomorrow. Like, there was like no way that the Direct today was gonna be so bad. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I can wait. And I was just like, it's fucking April Fools. Who gives a shit? I was like, let's just wait and talk about the Switch 2. Because I feel like then if I, even though I'm like weirdly a couple of days late for Raidou, at that point, it's like, if anything, we've learned more about Raidou, and fuck it, Raidou came up in both directs, so it doesn't matter anyway. But it was just kind of funny of like, okay, is it worth it for the one day where April Fools is funny, or do you just suck it up and just be like, just fucking talk about everything and wait a day? So, as you can tell, I've sucked it up, and we're here. The Nintendo Switch 2 wasn't announced, but the Switch 2 has been properly unsheathed, as I guess we're keeping up with the vocabulary for today. But Nintendo had a really, really long direct, but we've got a bajillion things to talk about, and in the antithesis of SMTN history, we're not going to run beat by beat down everything and make this the world's longest show. The way it's going to be segmented, we're going to talk a little bit about Xenoblade X impressions for an intro. Then we're going to talk about Raidou Remastered, which got announced. And then also lead that into Switch 2 impressions, some details, and stuff like that. So, without further ado, May, you were talking about it for a little bit, but Xenoblade X has been out for, what, almost 10 days now? Because it came out on,
The
was
20th.
it was the 20th. So yeah, it's just under 2 weeks old. We both picked up a copy. You've definitely been playing way, way, way more than me. But how are you enjoying it? Is it truly, truly the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X? What are your thoughts so far?
Uh, to really answer that question, yeah, it is definitely the definitive edition of Xenoblade X. Because they were able to put in a lot of the like old concept art stuff that they had, and actually put it in the game. And it would like, I don't know if you've ever read like the Secrets of Mira like book
I
that came
have,
with it.
and I mostly remember it because, much like the Final Fantasy 15 book, it just gets me depressed when I think about all the shit that got cut out of that game. Because man, X had so much shit cut out.
Yeah, so like at the very end, there's like the, oh, this is unidentified, classified information. Everything in that section is in the definitive edition.
Oh, for real?
Yes,
That's crazy. So
everything.
have you rolled credits on the game slash the new content? Because
Yeah, I beat
I
it
was
yesterday.
I was at least glad to find out that I was a little worried how they were going to hide the new content of like, are they just going to do like future connected and sort of make it its own thing? I was glad that they at least worked it into the base game, which I think is smart.
Well, that was the only way they could do it because it's Xenoblade X is the only like open world game out of all of these Xenoblades, and the way that it is, it's more like an MMO. So like for them to do like the extra story, like for Future Connected or Future Redeemed, it just wouldn't work. They would have to give you a brand new character that isn't the created character that you have. Like give them a full move set, and just like they would make you have to start over, and it would just feel weird and disjointed if they did that.
So without getting into spoilers, because I'm still pre-scale list, so I am still stupidly early. For the new content, do you think it lived up to it for you in terms of like what was there? Because you beat X originally on Wii U, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it is not a spoiler for anyone out there, but to say Xenoblade Chronicles X ended on a cliffhanger is the epitome of an understatement. So it was definitely open for more story, which is nice. How do you feel that it kind of lived up in terms of like, oh, I'm glad this was here, added like extra stuff I liked, versus were there any kind of nitpicks or anything weird with the story? Because I feel like, especially when you sort of compare, it's a lot harder just because this is all connected into one package. But I think kind of when you compare the pros and cons of like Future Connected, Redeemed, and Torna, there's always kind of like, oh, they do this really well, but oh, this leaves a little bit to be desired. Like, where does it kind of land for you in terms of like how the monolith added content usually has been?
Well, for me personally, I think everything was fine except for the last part. Uh, like the final part of the game, it gets to this point where it reminded me of the final parts of Rebirth a little bit, where it's like this is going on for way too long.
Are
And
you sure? Yeah, are you sure you didn't want to save this for the next game? All right, you're still going?
so like no, it's just like they put you in this place, and it's just like the concept of what they were trying to do is very cool, but because of like the amount of characters that you have, it's like okay, this is going on for way too long, and I was so tempted to just skip it, but I was just like, no, I want to get all the content as possible. But it got to this point where it's like they could have made this last part a little bit better. I don't know why they made it like this. So maybe in an update they'll change it or something if people complain about it enough. But in terms of story, I think it did a good job. Um, I think it was able to take everything that was in the concept, like art stuff, and also make Xenoblade X a Xeno game. Like we got more of that like Xeno shit that that's in every single game, and it was really cool. The final boss is people. I know people are gonna complain about the final boss, but it's just like, eh, the bosses are cool and all that, but it's always gonna be the same at the end of the day. So it's just like I don't really care. It's a nice spectacle. Nice like theme music remix with the final boss theme is nice, and the new characters are also really cool. Um,
Do we have confirmation of like when you rolled credits? Did you notice is the new music still done by the same composer?
yeah,
That's really cool.
everything is done by him. I think
I
I
I was only
believe
just
Ace
surprised
Plus also
because
is in there
I
as
was
well.
just more surprised that like we're getting any new music in the sense of like I don't know how you would throw another composer into that game without it sticking out like a sore thumb. But then the funniest thing too is, um, I can look it up. I forget. Do you remember his name by the way? The composer.
Uh, I just know his last name Suena.
Yeah, it's Hiroyuki Sawano. Um, and the funny thing was like, because X came out like literally the year of or the year before he got big. Like it was all before Attack on Titan or anything else had come out. So it was just really funny to kind of like compare any of his old stuff. And I forget who had interviewed him, but there's a really cool interview where he talks about the soundtrack to X as like being his favorite thing to have worked on. Which, if you listen to X or have ever played any like, if you've listened to like 5 minutes of any of the theme songs, it's like it's clearly his weirdest soundtrack he's ever made. So it definitely makes sense of like,
Uh, uh,
I mean
it's
like
definitely weird, but you could definitely hear where like he took a lot of stuff from like Gurren like not Gurren like Kill la Kill and Attack on Titan
yes.
and put it in here because you have that spectacle of giant beasts and then the aliens and stuff like those are like two heavy core themes in both Attack on Titan and Kill la
Well,
Kill.
I was even more thinking of like even stuff of like including lore of the world in the lyrics alone. That like
Oh
if you're
yeah,
not paying any attention, you wouldn't notice anything. But like especially in Xenoblade X, like you sometimes the music was your only lore of like what the fuck am I fighting? Like who are these things?
yeah, and the music now even makes more sense. Like there's like songs like Uncontrollable, the Tyrant theme, and like of the flying theme that would play when you got your flight module. A lot of that stuff makes sense now with the new content.
That's awesome. And I mean, because, yeah, obviously the biggest meme with X is always going to be like, how many yas and uhs can I throw into one song? But it's like, for every meme song that's there, like, because I think, like, Xenoblade X is one of those things that it's probably not the best soundtrack in the series, but it's that one of, like, if you fuck with it, there's a
Yeah,
lot to enjoy there.
yeah. You and anybody who plays it, they're gonna be like, "I fucking hate this song," and then like 50 hours, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah."
Uh, uh,
And
yeah.
it catches it gets you so bad.
The only one that really upset Mary so far, which has been funny, is like she can't stand the town theme. during the day of like when you're in NLA, the
Yeah.
I can't hear you, I can't like she cannot listen to that. I was like, I had some text box open and was doing some menu stuff, and she's like, you need to just like pause this.
Oh man, that's a great song too.
But so how many hours would you say it took you to do a whole complete playthrough?
Well, I haven't 100%ed everything. I'm about like 75% there.
Oh, okay.
Because like once I got to the last part, I was just like, I want to see what happens next, and I just said, fuck everything else. I'm only like missing one more character to get.
Oh, dang.
um, but I put in 114 hours, or
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, 114.
Were you messing around with any of the online missions at all or no?
No, I tried like doing one because like the first day they're just like, oh, here's a super boss. It's just like, what do you mean? Like no one's like level 50 or level 90, and we're
Yeah,
not like the
I
fact that
was a little surprised how quickly they turned on the super boss because like I don't know how many of us non-reviewers do you think are going to be able to start beating down this like 50 billion health
yeah.
boss?
But people eventually got it. Like when I got to chapter 5, I like got a message like someone already killed the super boss, and I was like, oh damn. Like, so I guess the people who know life did were able to get that far.
Just
Um,
remember, if you think you're no lifing a game, there's always someone out there no lifing it harder.
oh definitely. But I tried some of the stuff. Like there's the squad missions that you do where it's like it'll show you a list of enemies that you can kill, and it will share between the group, like the server that you're connected to. Um, and that was kind of fun because you can see like people aren't really like doing it until someone else does it. Like they'll like because sometimes they'll have like they'll be like, oh, beat this like level 50 boss like 5 times or something, and someone's like gonna be like, I'm not gonna fucking do that until they see everyone else doing the other
Yeah.
monsters, and it's like, okay, then I'll put in work and try to get this up, and then the we'll get rewards and things like that. That was like one of the reasons why I would connect to the server. Was just like I want to get the free tickets and stuff so I can get more items and all that. But I never got to play like online with anyone because all my friends that do have it are taking their sweet ass time with the game.
I feel like it's funny. Like I think the game came out at a great time in terms of like people getting a lot of just like attention for it, especially now that we know for Nintendo exclusives, like it's literally this until the Switch 2 launches, which is nice. So it's like
Hmm.
3 months. Once Nintendo stops jerking off Donkey Kong Country Returns HD on their Twitter account, they can get to advertising this game again. It sold well, but I have a hunch I think it's going to be the worst selling out of the four Switch games, which I know I shouldn't be shocked about. I just feel like it's kind of a bummer because this should be the most approachable game for anyone to play just because you don't need to play any of the first three.
Well, at least with 1 and 2, you could do that. I think 3, not even 3, like Future Redeemed is the only one that you can't play
And,
without.
and that's one you have to literally buy into.
Yeah, but all of the games you can just play and not really care about what's going on. Like the other stuff that's in the background. 3 will have some references and characters that you won't like know, but it's not enough to be like, oh, this is like very important that you should know. Like they made it really good enough where like anyone can play at any point and like just jump around.
Do you have I'm trying to think. Do you have a ranking in your head of where you put and we'll just include whatever add-ons in the base game itself where you would put one, two, three, and X.
Uh, I would put 3 at the top, and then I would put 2 uh just below. And I'll put X below 2 as well, and then 1 below. But they're very high. This isn't to say that 1 is like the worst, but it's like in terms of like how much I enjoyed the game and like me going back to it. 1, it has the least amount of hours that I put into a game. 2 has the most. I've put in like 800 hours into 2. Um, And it's also just for different things. Like for me personally, I don't think X has the best story. Like I think it's
No,
okay, but
no,
it
yeah.
doesn't have the best story. For me, it's the gameplay, and like I said, it's the only open world game. It's like the gameplay is really great, and the new additions that they did for this one as well, by just giving you an extra button to do quick cooldowns, makes the gameplay so much more faster, almost akin to like Xenoblade 3's gameplay. Um, and then two, for me, has a really good story. It has really good characters. Gameplay is nice, once you actually learn how to do it. And then three has the best story out of all of them. Uh, and also just has the best gameplay. A lot of people might not agree with that, but I think it definitely takes it's definitely the next evolution of like two's gameplay. And I really like that. So,
I'm genuinely curious, and this will come up later when we talk Switch 2. Of I think there's going to be a really interesting conversation about what games realistically and should get enhanced or Switch 2 versions. If like let's do more than just give it a 60 FPS patch, which at least thankfully like we know is a thing that some games will have, cuz I think especially looking at all the quality, like I think they almost undersold X in terms of how much quality of life stuff they put in the gameplay. Of like people really don't appreciate unless you've played the original on Wii U of how much more enjoyable that game is just because of all the stuff they added into it.
yeah. Like being able to like everyone levels up with you now,
Oh my
so it's not
god, yes.
you don't.
The EXP share, thankfully not being broken, is also good because I think that's one of those things. If you could easily, in a very unbalanced way, kind of remove some of the fun for that, along with no more having to find people down, and like honestly, the biggest one is the one that you mentioned of like the ability of like wiping your cooldowns once per battle is like such a just like oh thank you, like it doesn't feel like it breaks the game, it doesn't feel like it's another overdrive mechanic, but it's at least that thing of like it speeds it up just enough that you still feel like you're actively participating.
Oh, it breaks the overdrive system like completely. The overdrive system was already broken, but
Which is saying
having quick
something.
cooldowns just kills it.
um One of the things I at least do want to like let people know with it though, especially is there are some games like especially in like a now that we have the Switch 2 release date coming out where I'm like, "Oh, I never played Link's Awakening. Oh, I'm glad I waited. This got a patch or that got a
Hmm.
patch and stuff like that." I'm kind of stuck in a weird sense of like, "Ooh, should people wait for the 60 FPS patch on this, especially now that we know it is coming?" They haven't officially said what it will be, but they did confirm on the website that X will be getting a Switch 2 patch, not a
Yeah.
version. So it's like it's kind of tough because like the way it is now, I think even at 30 FPS, it's still totally playable. I think ironically, much like you kind of mentioned with the story, X you're not really playing for the story. Uh, and I'm always kind of surprised that the funny thing of with X is like it is simultaneously like one of the best looking games Monolith has ever made, and also sometimes one of the ugliest looking games they've
Oh,
ever
it
made. Like
definitely like the characters look really ugly.
yes, but it's
Definitely.
that. But it's still hilariously more technically impressive than not. Like one of the things I was shocked they didn't advertise more. The amount of like time, like the load times they've cut down was insane.
Hmm.
Because I never played X off the disc. I always played the installed data version. So like I knew you could play it off the disc,
No one
or
was doing
like it had
that.
like 8 minute load times, but I'm like, man, even by like modern day standards, like it loads faster than even like Tears of the Kingdom does.
And when it takes a long time, you know that it's like, oh, a good cutscene's about to start.
Yeah, so I'm glad it's been out. I think if you're someone who's played it, you're obviously like I've told so many people about this game in the sense of like, oh, check it out, or oh, you'll really enjoy this, blah blah blah. I haven't had a single person I have like bullied into buying this game come back to me and be like, oh yeah, I didn't really care for it. Like It's got a slow start, like a very slow start. But like once you kind of get your hooks into it, and especially if you sort of know, much like May you were saying, of like as long as you go in with that, it's a solo MMO kind of vibe,
Hmm.
and you get in that process of just turning in quests, doing stuff. Like it's really hard for the game to kind of slow down to an absolute crawl, unless, and I'm so shocked they still kept this in there. I thought it was so fucking weird. Um, the affinity quest still locking you out of story missions. You can still fuck yourself over. I heard one friend already do this, where he picked up the first affinity quest too early and got stuck into like 5 hours of grinding.
Yeah, that's that's the unfortunate thing about that.
But
But
it's
it's
like,
like it's a lot. I feel like that's a lot more easier because before there was more stupid shit.
oh,
Um,
100, no, 100%. It's like it's the least issue of a game that I'm so amazed and happy to be playing. And it's wild too because like when I booted it up for the Switch, I've messed around with Switch games over the last year or so. I was shocked that I haven't bought a brand new first party Nintendo title since Tears of the Kingdom. Like bought, well, I guess I should say bought and played it.
mm,
Like I'm sure I've bought like one or the other. I think Mario RPG came out in the same years of Tears, but like I haven't started that yet, even though I finally bought it. But like literally the last game I played that was a brand new buy it, play it, no life it game was Tears, and that was almost 2 years ago now.
oh shit.
Which is funny because it's not like there was nothing I wanted to play. There was a lot of shit that's been out on Switch. I've just been like, oh, I can wait for this, or oh, I've got a bunch of other stuff to play and things like that with it. But like Xenoblade, ironically, was just one of those things of like, listen, Monolith doesn't have a lot of, even though they put out a shit ton of games, especially by AAA standards, like every Monolith game is like, yo, dog. As long as I've got the money, I'm gonna fucking, I'm fucking buying this thing because like, I want to be there and have that message sent of like, oh yeah, like I've been asking for this game for fucking the better part of a decade. There's no way I was not going to buy this fucking thing. So I guess yeah. The only other thing I want to kind of say with X, especially just because of how much more early on I am with it, I'm glad it's still holding up as well as I have because I probably haven't played it in like 8 years. It's been a long time. Like how when did you last play it?
The last time I played it was, I want to say, 2 years ago. So I think, yeah, it was like right before. No, it was right before Future Redeem came out because
Oh, okay.
I was trying to get all of them done before Future Redeem came out. So I played through all of them again, and then I did Cross.
It's really funny. There's a local game store near me. The month, not the month, like the week or so after X Definitive Edition came out, I was like, wow, I've been noticing a lot of video game stores now have copies of Xenoblade X on Wii U.
I
It's
still
like nobody wants to play it on there now.
I still have my copy.
I mean, listen, even if it got rare, that's one of those ones of like I'd have to keep it. Like it's literally up there with me of like Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Like I'm never gonna fucking play that game on Wii U again. But like I still can't believe that that game happened. Like those two games, I feel like are very closely tied. Of like that was in a very weird era for Nintendo, and the fact that both of those games had also a special edition with it is even more insane. So it's like, listen, I'm not gonna trade in whatever $30 I can get for Xenoblade. Like I gotta keep this
Mhm.
shit.
One thing I would
Uh,
say for Xenoblade X is that when starting the game, I think the best thing to do, like the moment you get like the title drop, uh, the best thing for a player to do is actually just go and explore instead of going straight to the city.
100%. Which
That is,
thankfully, the game does a good job of like giving you a long enough leash that it doesn't feel like, oh, you walked off the trail, you're dead.
oh no, they don't even give you a leash. Like the moment I started, I went and started doing the crazy exploit shit that I did in the original, and got all the way to like the end of the not Sylvanum, is a Noctilum, and then
Hmm.
I jumped off and then swam to Sylvanum, then went to Coldris, and then came back and then went to the city. So I just like did everything else before I even got there. So then like when all the affinity quests was coming up, I just had them out of the way.
I feel like and I know we're really early, but I'm thinking about the year ahead of us of like 2025, and I'm like, man, I feel like there's a chance this might just be, at least for me, the year of really dumb niche things Spencer likes coming out and being really good. Like
Hmm.
the only way I can think of like my year being really bad. Oh man, I trust Media Vision, so I don't think this will happen. But if that Digimon game fucking sucks, I'm gonna like go into a psychiatric ward.
I
Like
don't
that
think it's
game,
gonna suck.
that game better fuck hard. I need that game to come out fucking SMT5 levels of like good coming out of that game.
Like, aren't they the reason why we haven't gotten a Devil Survivor in a while?
That is true. Although honestly, I don't know if this is a hot take. I would rather be getting a new Digimon game every 4 years than Devil Survivor 3. Like I would love a new Devil Survivor, but also Digimon is one of those series that, like, I think if it wasn't for the merchandise, it should be a dead series because it's like, trust me, Digimon isn't coasting on Digimon Survive money, and I like that game.
Why do you think Digimon like wasn't as popular?
That's a long conversation. That's its own thing. I think the honestly the more impressive question is I always wonder why people don't ask more why Digimon is still ongoing. Because I always think it's funny that people ask about, oh well, what about this with Pokemon versus Digimon, but I think it's almost more impressive to me how Digimon has continued to stay popular all these years after Pokemon, and how I would say even now more than ever it is immensely more different than I would say it's like incredibly more different than Pokemon.
Oh,
And hell,
definitely.
this year is even going to be more crazy now that we know about Pokemon coming on Switch 2, and I'm sure Bandai is going to announce Digimon Time Stranger is going to be coming to Switch 2 as well. I'm like, oh, obviously Pokemon will sell better, but I'm like, I'll be very curious how people will compare both of those because like this is the first year in like literally decades where a mainline Pokemon game has a mainline Digimon game as a competitor in the same year on the same platform. And now, am I going to say one has the edge over the other? It's too soon to tell, but I will just say one of them does have the same composer as Danganronpa, which is a pretty big trump card.
Yeah.
I will say, as a random aside, I'm probably like 9,000 years for this, late for this, but I've been coming to a realization that I'm not ready to have this conversation, but I'll have it eventually. I don't think anyone's told me this, but someone might have needed to tell me sooner than later. When was anyone going to tell me that I might be the only one on the internet who likes Ultra Despair Girls in the year 2025? I didn't realize how canceled that game had become. And you know what's funny? Do you know what like triggered it for me? It was like the 100th time I had finally heard Matthew Mercer's infamous line
I'm
where I
sorry.
was like, I think I know what this line's from. And I was like, oh yeah, that line's from Danganronpa.
Ooh.
And then like the memes of like, have you seen like the people do like screenshots of someone doing a let's play for Ultra Despair Girls, and it'll
Yes.
be like starting it. This is the best game of my life. This game sucks ass. I'm giving up on this. And like for years, I have been telling people Ultra Despair Girls until V3 was my favorite in the whole series. Of like, I love Ultra Despair Girls. I love the gameplay. I love the story. I think it's really fun. I think it's really crazy. Definitely check it out. And I've never once had someone like call me out for it, like, Spencer, that's a bad game. Don't recommend that to people. But I'm like, I wonder, like, there's got to at least be one person in my life who definitely has thought less of me after hearing me say that, right? Like, there's gotta be.
Someone. It's so hilarious because literally during the fucking direct, me and my friend were talking about we're talking about that. Just like
The line?
is Ultra Despair Girls is actually a bad game? Like
Well, like, well, that's the thing. Like, I'm gonna go and replay it one of these days, but, like, it is wild to think that, like, is the public opinion of the game so bad that that's why they never ported it after they put it on PS4 and PC?
maybe, or I
Like,
think it's more just they want to move on from that.
no, I don't know, dude. Like, I didn't realize how much people fucking hate that game. It's wild. Like, it's like, I'm almost like, I need to replay this just to be like, did I play the same game? Like, am I gonna replay this and be like, oh man, this game blows? But I'm like, even the soundtrack alone, I was like, dude, that's like one of the top 10 best soundtracks of all time is Ultra Despair Girls.
I think people appreciate the music and some of the characters, but like I think there's just too much like weird shit that happens in it that like rub people the wrong way.
Oh, it rubbed
Like
him. It rubbed him all right.
yeah.
It's got a, you know what it is? It's
So
the
funny.
criminal girls in me. It's the criminal girl sicko in me. That's why I like it.
Oh,
It's
don't mention that, man. I get sad every time.
it's the what is it? I was at a store recently and I saw a copy of Stella Glow.
Oh my god.
And I told a guy, I was like, "Oh, cool, Stella Glow. I don't see that very often." He's like, "Yeah, I never hear anyone really talk about it. I wonder what happened to that developer." And I was about to go on a very long explanation about Criminal Girls X, and then I realized, Spencer, nobody gives a fuck but you. Like, just walk away. Nobody wants to hear about Criminal Girls from you.
Yeah, and if they did, just spare them
I
because
just, I just want to say, by the way, last thing on Danganronpa, at least Ultra Despair Girls, if that line was delivered by anyone besides Matthew Mercer, I guarantee they would be like nuked out of orbit.
yes,
And the fact that it was done by Matthew Mercer is so funny because almost no one ever mentions it.
because they what will happen if they do. Like,
Well, like it's funny because it was enough to the point where I actually messaged Matt and I was like, Matt, does anyone ever bring up Ultra Despair Girls to you? And he's like, you know what? Shockingly, no, and I would like it to stay that way. I'm like, very good point.
like I'm
Very.
surprised he hasn't like taken his name out of the game or something. Kind of like how fucking Kara Buckland took her name out of Honey Pop.
Oh, I didn't know she did that. That's what was that around Honey Pop 2, or did something else happen?
No, she's been the voice actor for the black girl, the black air attendant.
Hmm.
She continues to voice her, but she doesn't have her name at all in there.
Isn't that more weird that you continue to do it but don't want your name in it?
Yeah.
They're like, listen, dude, I know I'm not black, but a check is a check. It's like that. It's like that era of. It didn't last very long, but there was that era where we really did try forcing out. If you're not this ethnicity, you're not allowed to voice act this person. You know, and then I think we realized very quickly that the voice acting industry, even at its best, was a very small, incestuous party, and we were not going to be able to fulfill those rules.
I think we've done it so far. Um,
It's it's been pretty good, but I think it's especially funny now. Of like, I think if you compare stuff like, I forget the name of it, but the most recent one in recent memory comes to mind is the guy who used to voice Chad from Bleach. Do you remember him?
Jamieson Price.
Well, I just meant like Chad in general, like from Bleach, but like how like he used to be voiced by a white guy. And
Yeah.
then when they brought Bleach back for 1,000 Year War, they recast it as a different person because they're like, "Oh, hey, I wanted to let someone who I thought would be a better fit for this role do it." And I'm like, honest, for something like Bleach, totally makes sense. I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
And then there are other ones of like when it happens mid-series or like mid a game coming out, where it's kind of like, "Ooh, this just feels like we're just firing somebody." And it's a very funny one, especially because like. Have you seen the stuff that happened, I think, a week ago with... There was one of the Genshin voice actors who got, I guess, replaced is the best word for it, but because MiHoYo's not been doing any of the SAG-AFTRA stuff or not willing to sign an intermedium, half of the game's voice actors have been silent for so long that they're like, all right, fuck it, you guys won't work on this game because we're non-union, so we're just going to start replacing you.
Mm.
And so it's been this really funny thing of people being like, hey, I'm replacing this person in this role. And I forget the name of the actor, but the new voice actor who was replacing them basically put out one of those tweets that's like, it's an honor to take over this character and blah, blah, blah. And it was so funny. Like, immediately after it, someone was just like, you're just taking this because you're a fucking scab, dude. It was like, and it's like, and it's funny because I think if you're the dude who is the scab of like whether you agree with MiHoYo or not, I think you're allowed to take that job. I just think you have to have the hindsight to not make a tweet about it, you know?
Usually they don't. Like most of the times where there was stuff like this, like a strike happening, and there was a person replacing someone, usually they would just like say like, "Oh, they'll make like a quick note."
I
Right?
want a really long tweet from Zeno Robinson where he's saying how thankful he is that he gets to pass on the legacy of Junpei from Vic Mignogna. I want that to happen.
Oh, that would be so nasty. That would be disgusting. Oh man.
Thanks for getting canceled, Vic. Couldn't have done it without you. It was funny, especially with all the P4 remake talk over the last week or two. There were people who were like, "God, I'm not ready for the English cast of Persona 4 to get replaced." And in my brain, I'm like, "Well, I'd be fine either way." But ironically, I'm like, I actually don't think they have to, just because
Yeah.
the cast of that one has less problematic people in it that they're probably like, Yuri Lowenthal, you're fine, get back in here. Everyone still likes you.
For like three, I think it was just like Yuri Lowenthal was busy with Spider-Man 2.
No, three was
Actually,
three was a weird one of problematic cast members and what was it? Three was a weird case of problematic cast members and wanting to get cheaper talent.
hmm.
So it was a budget thing for three,
I
which
would
is
say he
why a
was
lot of them
busy.
were people weren't very well known. Like the only returning member on that one as a main role is Elizabeth, and
Yeah.
Elizabeth I almost wouldn't even consider a main person. Like in terms of main speaking roles, I think the biggest name voice actor would probably have been Alejandro or Alex.
Hmm. Oh,
And
and
I
I'd
mean,
say
yeah, and even that fucking Alex, it was like 6 lines in the whole thing. He probably knocked out his thing in a day.
um, I said he's probably busy, but then I forgot that almost all of the previous voice actors were in the game still as like other people.
Yes, which
Like,
I think makes it more funny if you're then not included.
yeah.
But that's about it for that. I guess we can kind of get into, since we're talking about Raidou and voice acting. Raidou Remastered got announced last week, and I want you to know, at least for me, when I saw this at the Direct, even just thought about it, I was like, "Holy fuck! This is somehow less than I was expecting." In terms of what was here, and also way more at the exact same time.
Mm.
Really quick rundown for anyone who's curious. The official name of the game is Raidou Remastered: The Mystery of the Soulless Army. It is an HD remaster, kind of ish remake. It's a it is way more than just a basic remaster. It's not just like, it is ironically a lot more than how they did with Nocturne. And it's coming out June 19th worldwide. PS4, PS5, Switch, Switch 2, Steam, Xbox Series X and S. Nope, no Xbox One version, but surprisingly still a PS4 version. But craziest thing about it, it is just the first game, not the second game, and it has a lot more quality of life stuff from the second game brought into that. Oh, what Sonic tweet now? Oh my god. What's happening? You're scaring me now.
Oh shit! Sorry.
What did they do? What did they do?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Big day for worldly racing games. Anyway, get ready for the only upcoming kart racer you can play as your favorite Sonic characters across all platforms and blah blah. Wow. Honestly, I thought they'd be a little bit more cheeky than that. We'll get to you, Sonic Racing. But yes, speaking of Sega, it's kind of related. Raidou Remastered, coming out June. It's got a bunch of stuff for it. craziest thing with it is not only is that it is coming so soon, all of the changes they made to it in terms of the gameplay, how it is taking so many aspects from the sequel. Because if anyone's ever played the original Raidou, or especially the second one, the first one is clearly a company's first attempt at trying to do an action RPG in a very long time. And Raidou 1 is very uneven. And Raidou 2 is a lot better, but it's not perfect. And I think all the stuff that they're adding to it, which we'll kind of get into later, is so crazy to the point where, like, honestly, I think Raidou Remaster sounds better, but it definitely, to me, feels like way more of a remake. And I am so genuinely shocked how I initially went from, oh man, it's only the first game, and, like, it's $50. Like, I was like, I feel like they kind of cheaped out on that, to, after looking at all the work that they put into just the game itself, being like, holy fuck, yeah, this is, like, one of my most anticipated titles now, just because of all the like TLC and like love they put into this. But May, for you, what did you think when you saw Raidou Remastered, and do you have any history with the OG game on PS2?
Yeah, I have some history with the PS2 version. I never played the second one though.
So like that, it's
Yeah,
disturbingly so much better.
but I just never got to it. Um, and the first one was just like there's certain points it's just like God damn, like this game is taking way too long. Uh, Funny enough, when that RGG game was shown off, the Project 1000, I think, what's it called? Project Century.
Oh, Project
I
Century.
thought that was
Yeah.
Raidou. Like when they first showed it off, because they showed the train go by, and just like the city looked like Raidou, and I was
Oh,
thinking,
that is a good point. That is kind of around that same time
you know,
era.
the Taisho period or 1920s, whatever. Um, but upon seeing this, I just started freaking out, and I was just like, wow, like you said, I feel like this is more of a remake because they literally like redid the cutscenes. Like they don't look like the old ones.
Yeah, that's a good point. They redid the CG cutscenes, and a ton of the world and the lighting and everything was touched up so much differently than how it was. Because honestly, the lighting and everything was worked on differently in Nocturne HD, but that unfortunately kind of had more of a Silent Hill HD collection
Yeah,
look, where it was so HD'd in a kind of slapdash way that it had a lot of those little PS2 imperfections there, versus like you could look at this and be like, "Hey, this is a pretty good looking PS3 game." And I mean, it was a late release PS2 game in 2006, but I think they do a lot more here in terms of making it look presentationally a lot better than you would have expected, especially from those PS2 games with how kind of chunky those are. I was just so shocked that they wanted to do Raidou first, especially because it wasn't that long ago, but like in 2022, remember, not even 3 years ago, they were removing his costume from P5. Remember when they ported
oh my
P5
God, I
to
forgot about that.
PC, Switch, and everything that's not PS4? All those versions still don't have the Raidou costume in them.
Hmm.
So it's very, very weird that like they're kind of going back to this now. Obviously, it probably seems a little bit more hand in hand with Nocturne HD just because the Raidou stuff was added there for it. But even that being said, there were versions of it, especially in certain parts of Asia, where actually you had to either download or he was removed from the base game. So Raidou, it wasn't even included in every version of the game released worldwide. But we've got a bunch of different stuff with it. It is Atlas, so of course there is DLC. It's nothing like too crazy. I'll go over it like pretty quickly, just because we don't have like too much with it. But they showed off a lot of the game, and one of the big things I would recommend if someone hasn't watched it or is curious, or if it's your first time, they released like a 20-minute long spotlight video. Have you seen this?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was so good in the sense of like, man, it's done in a similar premise to how they did the Metaphor like first looks last year, and it's really really good because it has a lot of insight from the director of the original game, Yamai, who everyone was shocked to see is A, still at Atlas, and B, working on this because he was the original games director back in 2006. So That video was incredibly helpful at not only comparing it to the original game, seeing how drastic those changes are and everything else, but I think also does a great job just kind of showing where that team is at for what they want to do with those games in the future. Because, like, they refer to it multiple times, like, oh yeah, this is a series we want to come back
Yeah.
to. And I think, especially after being burned from Soul Hackers 2 so bad, I think that they were very much so, like, okay, I think a remaster is a smarter choice than Raidou 3, but I think especially depending on how well this remaster does, I would not be shocked if we get another
Oh, we're
one.
definitely getting another one because wasn't like didn't we learn about that they were doing something with Raidou because of the trophies?
Well, the trophies were only ever for the first game. There weren't anything for the second one in them.
Hmm.
I'm sure they are working or planning on doing something for this second game. I'm not sure how they would want to do it, especially just because it won't look as drastically improved as this first one will be. So I bet if we get it a lot sooner than this took. Because I was really shocked at how long we had known about those achievements to this release date. I think it's smart that they held it until it was coming out as quickly as it was, but yeah, we still don't know for sure that they're working on a second one, but they mentioned multiple times not only about wanting to return to Raidou as a series, but also in like doing brand new things with them, like a brand new story with Raidou Kuzunoha.
Raidou anime?
Raidou anime, I feel like would be like a Shenmue anime for me, where I would get really excited, three people would watch it, and then it would be canceled after
I
one
mean, they
season.
could do they can animate the manga, the Maribito story.
That is true. Did you see they released that for free?
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, it was Atlas Japan over the weekend or last week put out on Twitter a link to they released high res scans of the entire manga for Raida 1. And they've been translated before in English, so they've been out there. But this is the first time that they've been put out there, high quality scans officially from
Hmm,
Atlas, just for free for everybody,
that's
which is
cool.
cool. Besides that, though, really quick TLDR: if you have not ever played Raidou, it looks like your run-of-the-mill Atlas Shin Megami Tensei game. The biggest difference with it is the setting is very different, as well as it being an action game versus a turn-based game. It's not like I would say when I say action, don't think like DMC.
More like Tales.
Like yes, it's more action RPG than action for sure. Like there are many RPG mechanics in it. So that's the whole thing about like I think it's important for people to see that and they've shown bits of gameplay for it, but like there was a good comparison even a while ago of like the closest the series has kind of ever gotten to that was like Persona 5 Strikers, but even Persona 5 Strikers is really fast. Like Raidou is not a game where you're doing like a very quick actions, flashy combat. It's got fun and like flashy moves and stuff for like your demon summoning, but it's one of those things of like kind of going knowing what you're expecting. It's still one of those games of gameplay is interesting and will keep your attention for the playthrough of the game. It is thankfully not a crazy long game, but at the same time, it's definitely one of those ones of like you're there more so for the story. The story is kind of what's keeping you there. It's the mystery of like finding out like what's going on, who's the Soulless Army, all the stuff like that. I have to like look this up. I'm kind of curious how long the first one is. I remember it not being crazy long. I feel like it was less than 50
It's
hours.
like 16, wasn't it? These chapters go by really fast.
Yeah, the first game especially is much shorter than the second one. The second one is a lot longer.
I wonder how the
So
bathtub fight
Raidou
goes.
1 is about 25 hours to just beat the game. And then I'm sure, yeah, rushing it, you can beat it a lot faster. And then 100%ing it usually takes about 50. And then for the sequel, I wonder, where did the sequel go? I feel like, and then watch now, the sequel will be like less, but let's see for Raidou 2. Yeah, Raidou 2 just a little bit longer, around the 30-hour mark for King Abaddon.
Do you think they're gonna keep the bathtub fight? The bathhouse.
They have confirmed that there is nothing removed from this game, which I think is interesting.
Hmm.
So I would assume so. We were talking about something kind of related to this earlier. One of the ones I was shocked people haven't talked about is that they're adding voice acting, which is interesting.
And almost every person that's like voiced these characters are back too, which is interesting as well.
It is because I wasn't expecting them to remain so faithful to who played them last time.
Hmm. Makes me interested if
Uh,
Matthew Mercer is going to come back as the other Raidou.
ooh, that is a good
Because
point. Because yeah, he was what Raidou
he was
the
he was
13th.
the original voice actor for Raidou, and then Billy Kamitz took
Hmm.
over, but Billy Kamitz passed away 2 years ago, or back when
I feel like that was even longer. I
yeah,
feel like Billy passed away like almost like what 2021.
I would say it was after Royal,
Yeah.
because I believe that was his last role, or Hero or Shield Hero was. Now, let me look it up real quick.
But yeah, there's a brand new English voice acting dub for the game and in Japanese as well. I'm really curious though to see like what the full cast list will be, especially just with how much like you mentioned like how many people have played these characters over the years. Let's see here.
2022.
Yeah, Billy was in Billy was Raidou in 2021. Matthew Mercer was the Soul Hackers version in 2013. Maybe could be Matthew again, but I almost feel like it would be somebody else just for like getting someone cheaper kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Especially just because he doesn't talk that much.
Well, I mean, like, because there's two Raidous. There's the main character Raidou, and then there's the Raidou that does talk.
That's true.
And I was like, oh, the other Raidou is a lot older, so it makes sense for to be Matthew. And then if they didn't want to like change anything, they would keep Billy Kamich's voice for like the grunts and stuff, and then have someone be like saying the demon names.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially because yeah, we've also had I forget it with it. Is Godo? I think Godo was Robbie Damon.
No, Godo is
No, was he Ray
yeah,
Chase? Yes, that was Ray Chase. Godo was Ray Chase in
Victor.
Nocturne, and he is still that Godo in Remastered, which I was only slightly bummed about, just because Patrick Seitz being Goto is very different than Ray Chase's version.
Isn't Patrick Zed's also Victor? Like he was Victor in Soul Hackers, wasn't
Yes, yeah, he. I mean, yeah, Soul Hackers had a very small cast.
he?
Yeah, and then all the other ones. It's tough to kind of gauge just because we hear snippets of it, but it's a little bit harder to tell the base game. My biggest question, just because of how much he's in the game, and especially I love him. I'm very curious to find out who is going to be.
Hmm.
Ooh, also, you want to place a bet out of all the possible characters. We've got to imagine Rasputin's going to have a horrifically bad, thick accent, right? Like, he has
Oh,
to
we heard
be.
it just a little bit in the trailer. It sounded all right.
Let's see on here.
I think it was him. It could have been
Yeah,
like one of the soldiers talking.
yeah. We don't have too much because there's like only like a handful of like English trailers they've put out for it. Japan's done a little bit more, but thankfully they're not doing that thing they did with the last couple of Atlas games where it's like, all right, we're going to put out a new trailer every day for the next 2 months till the game comes out, which thank God they're not doing that again.
Didn't SMT5 spoil some shit because of that?
Five and Vengeance definitely spoiled some stuff, but I think those are mostly trailers. The Daily Demon ones were just kind of the ones for 5, you did get to a point where it was like, okay, I probably would have liked to know this, but they did keep a couple secrets, which were nice. The ones for Vengeance, I really turned my brain off for, because the one, like, we had so few new demons that I didn't know about, that I was like, okay, I would like to go into this a little bit blind. But, yeah, I am excited for Raidou Remastered. I know it is not going to be the next Persona, God forbid, but I think being realistically probably the only real SMT-like game we're getting this year is smart, especially compared to how many we got last year. I think the release date is smart, although now that we know how much is coming out in June, I hope it doesn't get too much attention taken away from it. I think being on every system available right now is incredibly smart. It's also absolutely wild to think about it. This is the fastest Atlas has ever released a game for new hardware ever.
Do we know how much this is going to cost?
$50.
Oh, it might do really good for the Switch too. Then
That's true. There's not going to be many. There's not going to be many games that are going to be $50 in that
like
bad
90,
boy.
50. Let's go. Let's get that one. What is this?
So yeah, so pre-orders have been pretty solid for it so far. There haven't been a ton for it. I will say, I absolutely love the new box art for it. We still don't know who has made it, but the new box art is very clean. It's a little busy in terms of how many characters are shoved on there, but especially comparing it to the original, like I think the first two Raidou games have very iconic or at least very memorable box arts for it. It was a good job of like making it feel very different, especially comparing it to like the Nocturne HD one, which is just what if Nocturne was Dijon mustard. Beside that, though, we have too much more. Japan is getting I would say, interesting special edition. Not one I'm like crazy about. Did you see the Hanafuda deck?
I don't think I did actually.
So they're releasing a 48 card Hanafuda deck, which is interesting in the sense of every card is actually unique art. So it's a brand new Hanafuda art on every of these cards, and it looks really cool.
Oh yeah, that does
But
look nice.
as someone who appreciates Hanafuda cards, it's one of those things of like these are cool, but I will also probably never play Hanafuda with them once. But it's a cool thing to have.
I still have the
Other
Arcana
little
cards from Arena.
the very large
Yeah.
ones. I got the limited run Arcana cards from P3P were hilariously small. They were like, because like I was comparing to them to the original ones, and I was like, oh god, like why are they so small? And it's like it's not like they're horrifically small. They're the size of like a Yu-Gi-Oh card, but it was just like by comparison to those original jumbo
Mhm.
ones, they just looked so comically small. But one of the things actually I forgot when we were mentioning about demons, there are now over 150 demons in this game, which is cool because the original game had I think just under or about 100 demons. And a large amount of them are actually from SMT5 and newer games, so not sure what that means in terms of which ones we can and cannot expect to see. But there is a DLC pack for SMT5 demons, which is weird only in the sense of like some SMT5 demons are in the base game, but then if you want other ones, they will only be in the game if you buy the DLC. So a little bit weird, but thankfully that's the only like content that's in any of the DLC, and that's pretty skippable, unless you're really gonna cry about Raidou glasses.
I'm surprised they aren't doing like costumes for him.
I think they might have taken a note from how bad the costume sales continue to be for most of these games, and also how badly they implement them. And I hope that they just, if they have them, they're in the game and they're free.
Yeah.
Because especially after Metaphor shit the bed so hard, of like that was like their worst implementation of costume DLC ever. I was like, listen, if you guys aren't even gonna try and make this good, don't even include it. Because there's a lot I'd like to see. Even fuck man, I would take and this would stick out like a sore thumb. Like I would love to see like a Soul Hackers 1 and 2 costume.
Yeah, I think that would look nice.
Just imagining Raidou Ringo,
Green hair. I think he would.
neon
I
green,
think he could pull it
neon
off,
green.
you know? Give him the shorts and everything. Like I think he can do it.
Oh god, I forgot about the booty shorts. So besides that, we at least have confirmation, and this is a weird one because this is the way it rolled out after the announcement got people kind of confused. So I'll hopefully truncate this down to make it as easy for everyone as possible. So if you're interested in the game, whether it be digital or physical, it's $50, or whatever your regional equivalent is. If you're picking up the game physically, if you are in Japan, it will only be available physically on PS4, PS5, Switch, and Switch 2. And if you are in Europe, Australia, or other PAL regions, it will only be available on PS5 and Switch 2. But if you're in the West, I guess actually if it's just North America, it'll be available on Xbox, PS5, Switch, Switch 2. And then just to make everyone very, very upsetty spaghetti, Atlas just decided to give up, and we're like, well, we made a lot of money with them last time, so we'll just let Limited Run Games do the Collector's Edition. We've not seen it yet. It'll probably get announced in the next month or so, just because the game's coming out so quickly. But, well, also, they probably don't want to put it up for sale, considering they still haven't finished shipping out all of their Persona 4s yet. They just finished Persona 3. Persona 4, the last ones are finally going out. My copies haven't arrived yet, but they're pretty good about being self-aware of like, hey, if we're asking people for like another $200+ collector's edition, probably doesn't look good if we haven't shipped out everything we ordered 2 years ago. So we know they're doing collector's edition in the West. It'll be available for everyone basically outside of Japan. We don't know what it'll have. A lot of people are not very happy about it. I forget if I've asked you, but what is your opinion or non-opinion of limited run games? How do you feel about them?
To be quite honest, I really don't give a shit about them.
But are you in the camp of I don't give a shit about them, but I would buy something from them, or I don't give a shit about them and I will not buy anything from them?
The latter.
Okay, because like, I think Raidou will be a very interesting one, because like Persona 3 and 4 are very popular games, unsurprisingly. Like, literally, any company who put those up for pre-order, they would have done just as well, if not better, than Limited Run, just because of how strong that IP is. Raidou's a weird one, where I'm kind of like, I could see this not bombing, but I could definitely see this being a lot less of a big deal than the other ones were. Considering the way they've modeled a lot of their collector's editions, it is a safe bet that there will probably be a steelbook, which makes me happy, because Japan is not doing one. But the other thing is, I think they're going to try and lean in really hard, because the first game never had a big box version, but the second game did. It had that like big box version with the Raiho plushie.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And I bet you if they make a matching version for the first game that also either comes with a new Raiho plushie, or what they might do just to separate it and like put a Goto plushie or another demon, and it matches the same kind of form as the old box, I bet a lot of people will cave.
I can see that.
For you though, is there anything you would really want? Because like honestly, the Japanese collector's edition outside of the Hanafuda deck and like an acrylic stand is like, that's cool, but like nothing I like need.
Not really. I haven't really bought physical games for a long time. Ever since COVID, like I've been buying digital mostly.
I blame Nintendo for not doing a collector's edition of Xenoblade X because they hate money.
See, if they did,
also,
that
you know what?
I sold out because I never got the Trinity.
I was gonna say actually, as soon as I said that, I was like, Spencer, do you remember the absolute hellfire that was the Xenoblade 3 collector's edition pre-order situation?
People have exclusive shit that you can't get anymore. And I'm just like, that there's lore in that stuff that we can't get. And that makes me upset.
I mean, I got it. I'm looking at it. I got it right here. I've got I'm sure you'll be unsurprised to hear this. The only reason I wanted that... Actually, no, that's not true. The art books, all the Xenoblade art books fuck hard. That's why I really wanted... X to do it, but there's already a nice art book from the collector's edition here. Mm-hmm. But the art book from 3 I really, really wanted, but also is that steelbook, just because it was like, oh, that steelbook's really, really nice. But all the art books for Xenoblade, especially 1, 2, and 3, I forget how it worked out, but North America was the only place to get each one of those art books with a hardcover.
Mm-hmm.
Every other region, for whatever reason, only did soft cover art books for it, and they're just like, for whatever reason, I don't know where Nintendo gets their hardcover art books printed. They are like the nicest quality ever. Like they're really really good. Which then sucks because then I'll go and compare it to other art books. Like Atlas has really cheap printing. Like they're fine, but it's like it's that thing of like once you've like ever if you've ever felt like a really nice quality printed book, anything kind of like that feels like it's like, oh, this is like thinner paper, this is like a lot cheaper material, things like that. It just sticks out like a sore thumb, you know.
Yeah.
But Raidou 1, very excited. Easily one of my most anticipated games of the year, which I would not have thought I put out there, but it is one of those things of, like I said, please watch the like 22-minute spotlight video. The passion and the interest that team had into putting this game out there and making it genuinely better, and also just how much better it looks, is really, really commendable. And this is definitely one of those games that I think could have a much larger fan base than it already has. And the fact that there are Raidou Kuzunoha fans at all is so funny to me because, like, his inclusion in Nocturne HD is so whatever. Like, no one became a fan of him just from that game, I promise you. But, like, this is a guy who has not had a mainline game since 2008. And there are, like, literally tons of Raidou fans out there that are absolutely dying to see him, slash people who just want to experience a new kind of game. And I think if you're someone out there, especially after a year of just nothing but turn-based Atlas games, Raidou 1 especially will feel like a complete breath of fresh air, because it does not play anything like Persona or SMT or Metaphor.
They said that, they would love to do more Raidou stuff after this. Do you think this is their way of like kickstarting the like Soul Hacker universe or that side again?
It's really interesting because, yeah, they talk about the naming of why they changed it. Because what's funny is they never really mentioned this with Soul Hackers 2. But one of my big hangups with Soul Hackers 2 is, like, why not still call it Devil Summoner Soul Hackers 2? Just to, like, kind of give it that lineage still. And what they had mentioned with Raidou was, even though Shin Megami Tensei is so popular still worldwide, when you hear Shin Megami Tensei, you expect a certain kind of game, and Raidou is not that game. And they've found that Raidou as a name was strong enough that it felt like it had more of like the name Raidou in 2025 meant more to other people than just saying Devil Summoner, which, as a Devil Summoner fan, I can't deny that's completely true. So the same thing kind of worked with Soul Hack. Sorry, the same thing was, I'm sure, their reasoning behind Soul Hackers just being called Soul Hackers 2. I think Raidou Remastered being the first game and not drastically different, whereas like Soul Hackers 2 had a lot of that stuff going for it, is kind of why. At first I was initially like, I was one of those people who even back in the day, I remember complaining, not like in a serious way, but in a way of like, I was sad when Persona stopped calling itself Shin Megami Tensei Persona. I liked having that long lineage there, but I think especially as the games continued on, and doubly so for the fact that America was doing it longer than Japan was doing it, it was like, okay, how many subtitles can we really put on this game?
Shin Megami Tensei Double Summoner Raidou versus the Soulless Army.
Yeah, like, I mean, well, and that's the funny thing, because that was the whole thing with 2. 2 I think held a record for a while of being one of the longest named games ever.
Excuse me. Yeah, it got really crazy, and I'm glad they gave that up. Like, I'm just wondering if this does do well, they do King Abaddon, and if that does well, they're like, here's a remake of the original Devil Summoner, and then after that, here's Soul Hackers, and then
I don't even know if they have to remake it. I feel like I would honestly just be happy with a port of Devil Summoner, just because like that PSP version is still really fun to play. It's just only in Japanese. That's its biggest problem. For you, though, I assume if you are picking up Raidou, do you know if you'd be playing at launch? And if you are, I assume it'd be PC.
Yeah. Most likely gonna be PC.
I bet you, especially unless something really crazy with the engine they used to port this game on, I have a hunch it's not Unity. I'm weirdly suspecting it might be Unreal 4 just because of the SMT5 demons in there, and they've been working with UE4
Yeah.
anyway. The funny thing with it though was, especially with Switch and Switch 2 being a thing there for it, there's also a huge audience of like, oh, I bet this game would play really good on Steam Deck.
Probably.
Like I would be very shocked if that had any issues.
I couldn't imagine it like being bad on there.
But going through, I don't think we have anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to say about Raidou before I guess we can kind of jump into Switch 2?
Not really. I'm just more kind of excited and like to see what they do with it more, and like the characters that are gonna show up. Like I wonder if they're gonna like change the like towards the end when we start getting like the big lore drops. Like I wonder if they're gonna add like cutscenes and stuff to that to like actually show us what's going on.
Ooh, that's a good point because they've said they're keeping the story completely the same, but that doesn't necessarily dissuade possibly having a new thing like teased at the end. Because honestly, I think that would be, especially with a game that we know has a direct sequel, that would be a fun one of like if you beat the game or if you 100% the compendium, or you get like a teaser for the sequel.
Mm.
Because especially the first game never had anything. Then the first game never had any idea that a second game was going to be made, and that's the second game kind of took longer than expected / wasn't really planned originally. That's why like most people forget that Raidou 2 was a post PS3 released PS2 game. So because it was late or summer
Yeah,
2008,
didn't it come out like right
and like
before Persona 4 came out?
P4. Yep, it was the same year. Persona 4 was in December. I think Raidou was over the
Mm.
summer. And let me tell you, way more people were excited about Persona than Raidou 2. Hence why every copy of that game came with a giant ass box and a plushie. They were like, please buy this game. Please somebody
Is
buy
that the
this
reason
game.
why there was a Raidou reference in the English dub for 4?
Ooh, you know what? That does make sense. I bet you that's why. Because those games were literally getting translated at Atlas West at the exact same time. So, speaking of games that are going to be on Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo decided, hey, let's just whip our Nintendo Switch 2 metaphorical penises out and make a lot of people very happy, very confused, and possibly very angry. There was like an hour-long direct today dedicated entirely to the Switch 2, and it's funny because I've been at work all day. I was able to watch this at my job while working, and I've been chewing on this, and I'm like, I know how I feel about this right now, but then looking at how the internet has been reacting to it has been so interesting because I think there's this current kind of like in the reveal, it was like everyone was like yes, 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 and I think there's even like that like a meme of it or whatever, but
Yeah,
like
the JoJo meme.
yeah, it's like, well, no, like it's a guy being like, yes, 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 no, 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 stop. It's like the more information we kept learning was great until it ended, and then it was like, oh fuck, this is terrible. I'm still excited about the Switch 2. We're gonna go over at least some highlights from the direct today, things we learned about it, but like my general takeaway from it, I am extremely excited it's coming out so quickly. It's coming out in the first week of June. I think that's crazy. The turnaround time for this is absolutely unlike anything we've had. A console release date is especially wild, but I think the games are great. I think the price point actually is really good for the system. I think $450 as a base price for all the hardware that's in there seems really, really fair. I think the games on the surface looks like a complete negative, but it leads to a conversation where, much like Ultra Despair Girls, people normally don't like my opinion on game pricing. But I want to kind of talk to you about it, May, and also anyone in the comments, please feel free to let me know how horribly wrong I am. But I am genuinely very excited. I was going into this being like, well, I love how the system looks. I love the Nintendo Switch 1. This it'll have to try to make me not want it, you know? Like Nintendo would really have to like go through some like backwards hoop jumping to make me not want this thing. And there are people out there who literally are like, "Oh, I don't want the Switch 2 anymore after today." I'm not that person. I'm really excited about everything I saw. Obviously, there are things I think they could have done better, and we'll go over that in terms of like upgrades, games, and pricing. But for me, I'm like, I've gone to every website. I've got my email address in. The pre-orders go up exactly a week from today on the 9th in April. I'm like, I'm ready to give up my first unborn child for this system. Like, I'm all in on this fucking thing. But there are definitely some criticisms that I think need to be put out there for it. But May, especially just because I know you're in such a different camp than I am, like, how do you feel about it after today? Like, where are you at just in general?
I'm gonna get it, and like I'm really excited for it. There are a couple of things that I'm just like not. I guess I'm worried about it, like the pricings of the game. It's mostly just the games. I'm just like $80, $90. I'm just like, that kind of sucks. But I'm not a person that like really buys that many games to begin with, and there's like there's just gonna be certain games that I pick, like. You know, like if a new Xenoblade game comes out, yeah, I'm gonna spend $100 on that.
Well, I was gonna joke and be like, well, honestly, you're probably like, you know what, I might be able to wait till the next Monolith game's announced. We'll see.
So like, or like whatever like exclusive comes out, like Astral Chain 2 or something. Like, yeah, I'll get that, but you know, eventually I'll get to them. So it's like the pricing makes me a little worried, but just not too much, you know. But everything that I saw, I enjoyed it. There were a little couple of things in the direct that I was kind of like, oh, we could have spent a little bit less time on this, like the game chat and the fucking what was it? It was the game chat and the camera mode or whatever. I was like, we could have spent at least like a minute on that. We didn't need to spend a whole 10 minutes on that part.
I don't know why it made me laugh so much, but the game chat reveal, like, girl sitting down on the couch alone.
Yeah.
Together? I was like, Jesus, like, man, someone at Nintendo was like, they were doing like a Nightmare blunt rotation when the COVID hit and they were designing this thing, and they're like, guys, what if we played games together with really bad bit streams?
It's gonna be that's gonna be peak meme material though.
Oh no, for sure. I will say though, biggest kudos to them for showing off like the technical limitations of this thing, even in the reveal today. Like when I saw how terrible the gameplay stream footage looks when you're doing group chat, I'm like, wow, good for man. They were not even trying to hide this shit.
The best thing they could say is like that's the Switch running at 120 FPS at like a that's what it looks like. But you know, take it down to 720 60 frames per second. It's gonna look amazing when you're doing game chat.
Honestly, you know what? When they showed the system specs, I genuinely gasped when I saw them not only like say that it could run up to 120 FPS on the screen. I was shocked that like Nintendo had like, because there were two things that I'm like, if the system has it, it'll be cool. I was ready for them to not mention resolution and HDR. Because I was like, I don't even know if Nintendo knows what HDR is. I was like, are they okay? Like, but the fact that it's like the screen not only does HDR and it outputs up to 4K, I think is crazy. The fact that the screen itself on the system does up to 120 is insane. Because like there are still brand new iPhones that come out that don't even do more than 60 FPS. So I think it's really easy to make fun of the technical specs of this thing while also remembering that it's like at its core, at least from like the last time we had like seen the leaks of the gameplay, it's basically on its best day, it's got the guts of a PS4 Pro. And with how much we've had like cross-generation game support, like we're just now starting to see people walk away from the PS4 base. So like I think we'll have a lot of interesting games get brought over to it. And I mean, even ones that we saw today that I was like not expecting, but I think even getting something like Borderlands 4, I'm like, that's huge.
Isn't Rebirth also
I'm shocked that can run on that.
Or was it just remake?
No, it was just Remake. Rebirth, I think, will be like one of those like not miracle port games, but I think they're gonna try to wait as long as possible to put that on Switch because like I bet you it runs. I bet you it's chunky. Cause and I'm not even like a Rebirth snob. Like Rebirth to me playing on base PS5, I had no problems with. I thought it was totally fine. Seeing it on Pro, I was like, that's cool. There, like I didn't feel like I was missing anything crazy. And even like looking at the trailer today for Remake, I think that still looks like playing that game on PS4 Pro, which was a great way to play it. It probably won't be able to handle 60 FPS, but fuck if it can, awesome.
I'm definitely be
Um,
excited to see that. See how it handles that.
yeah, I just think especially today, whether you liked the games that were shown or not, there was something from like every legitimately big publisher. Sega, Sega had a bunch. Like, not a good showpiece game, but let me tell you, me and Patrick and maybe three other people out there, when I saw Puyo Puyo Tetris get back again, very excited. Definitely should have just been Puyo Puyo Tetris 3 at this point, but fuck it, we'll just release the same game from 5 years ago. But um, Sega was there, Atlas was there, Activision's there with Tony Hawk. Call of Duty will be on it this year, which is still crazy. This will be the first year where Call of Duty's been on Nintendo since Call of Duty fucking Ghosts. Um, EA was there with all their sports stuff. Koei Tecmo was there with a bunch of bangers, first party and third party. Capcom bringing Street Fighter and fucking whipping their amiibos out was insane. Warner Brothers with Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm sure I'm even forgetting a couple others, but like literally like every big third party.
Oh,
Yeah,
Elden Ring.
fucking Ubisoft was there. Elden Ring was there, but even Ubisoft. I was actually shocked, by the way. I was like, they will. I'm like, lock it in. Assassin's Creed will be on this thing, and I bet you it still will be. But I was shocked that Ubisoft only showed off Star Wars because I was like, I was sure that they were going to have Assassin's Creed ready for launch.
I would imagine that this whole direct was like finished before Shadow's like reception.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, also, technically, they've pushed back Shadows a bunch that, like, I'm sure that there are people working on it, not necessarily ready for it to be out at launch. It was just one of those things of, like, thinking about how Ubisoft has revealed other things. And I think also it's a big note of, like, none of these games I've mentioned, even if, like, Tony Hawk or Star Wars Outlaws are your cup of tea, outside of EA with like the sports games and even 2K, because like 2K had other games as well. Like they all had big game equivalents there for it. Like a good one was for EA. If you don't care about like all the sports games, well, they still had Wild Hearts. They still had Split Fiction. Like they have a bunch of like other stuff for it. It doesn't feel like they're getting the fuck it, let's put it on Switch 2 stuff. Like
Hmm.
there wasn't Just Dance. Just Dance will be on it, I'm sure it will, but it wasn't the stuff you expect to see there, which is nice. It has those. There was no like my go-to for games that shouldn't exist, but it only exists because it's launched. So fuck it and put it out there. Like there was no Arkham City Armored Edition. There was no Mass Effect 3 Special Edition. Like there weren't any ports that kind of felt like a fucking
Skyrim.
port, you know?
Like,
Yes. Honestly, yeah, because like the only publishers legitimately not there are the ones who you shouldn't even expect to be there, but we know will. Like literally, the only big publishers I can think of who weren't there were Microsoft and Sony, who spoilers will be putting shit out on the Switch too.
it's their time to do SMT9.
I mean, I want to say you're right, but Phil Spencer is a coward until he either releases SMT9 HD or Scalebound. Those are his two choices. He's only allowed to do that. Did you see, by the way, when Kamiya tweeted come on Phil, let's do it.
No,
It gave me such you energy on Twitter of just us bullying Phil Spencer into releasing SMT9, even though I'm 99% sure that Phil Spencer has no fucking idea what Shin Megami Tensei 9
I think
is.
he does. You know,
I love Phil Spencer in terms of like as much as a normal man can love another CEO man, but like someone out there has to prove to me that Phil Spencer actually knows that that game released on
All I need to
Xbox.
do is hear him say, "I thought about it," or "I'm thinking about it," and
I'm thinking about.
I will already know that he knows that we've been doing that to him. Like,
Come on,
think
Phil.
about it.
Come on, Phil. Don't be a pussy, Phil.
Like
Come
that's all he
on.
has to do.
Only
He
you
just
can
gets on
do it.
stage, he's like, and I thought about it, and then this, the stage goes dark, and then you see SMT9. Like,
It's wild. Um, other thing I want to say, like even the games that like we're getting being new really goes like a long way. Like as much as I'm someone like I love Catherine, I love Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. I don't want you porting that shit to Switch. That's fine. That shit can stay on Switch One. We don't need a new port of that. Like having new stuff really went a long way in terms of the reveal. Ironically, I'd say if you really want to be a stickler about it, the only thing that was kind of lacking in the new games department was first-party Nintendo only announced like 5 games.
yeah,
There's barely any Nintendo
like
games
I was
announced.
expecting to see the Fire Emblem game.
Dude, that's so weird, especially because the rumor for the longest time, because what is the? I feel like the last rumor I had is that it's a remake of
Yeah.
4, and that it's for Switch One.
Well, they thought it was going to be for Switch One, but it wouldn't make any sense because of how big 4 is. 4 is one of the biggest Fire Emblem games, so it's like it makes sense.
And we
for it to be on
never
Switch.
and we've still never had 4,
No,
right?
never got it. Like the closest thing we got to like anything 4 was the main character being like very important in the previous Fire Emblem that came out, Engage.
Yeah, it's crazy in terms of stuff that's there. And I mean, what's funny is like we say there wasn't a lot for Nintendo. They literally announced a brand new Zelda, a brand new Donkey Kong, a brand new Mario Kart, and then the sequel to ARMS, as well as a paid tech demo.
Wait, hold on. Wait, wait, hold on. Are you?
You can say it. I believe in you. I believe in you.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about that game, or are you saying
Oh, you mean
the Dick Simulator?
you mean paraplegic paraplegic Rocket League?
Degrassi basketball?
Dra- Drag queen drivers, yes.
DXT.
Drag. By the way, fuck Nintendo. The game is spelled Drag X Drive. It is pronounced Drag and Drive, which you don't drag a wheelchair. You push a wheelchair. What's dragging on this wheelchair? No,
The
yeah,
legs?
I like to like. I like to. I mean, yeah, dude. The physics alone on the leg limps got to be crazy on that game. So, the sequel to All Arms No Legs has to be one of the most forgettable games I've ever seen in my life.
It's forgettable, but it's very. When I saw it,
It's mechanically
yeah, like
interesting.
when I saw it, I was like, wow, like I never would have expected a game like this.
It is mechanically very interesting until you realize, especially for a game that's supposed to be coming out this summer, holy fuck, every arena is boring and everyone looks the same.
I'm sure we'll be able to change it. Yeah.
We said that about Mario Strikers, dude. Like, dude, we were like, oh, I'm sure Daisy will be in this thing. I'm sure we'll have some, like, Drag and Drive will be cool a year after it comes out when no one is playing it.
It's gonna be. It's
And
gonna
I'm
be a hit in the
and
hot
I'm not
world.
sa- and I'm not. Oh, I bet it will. Big brothers, big sisters will be playing the fuck out of this game. But like Drag and Drive, the thing that sucks about it is that it's a cool premise. That I think it being a paid game is going to completely, unless it comes out so early that it's like, holy fuck, we need something to play on this system. Because I think people are going to realize, outside of a couple of third-party games, it's going to have a good launch, but I bet you it's going to be a really quiet year till fall.
Definitely, Mario
But
Kart's gonna hold him down.
oh, yeah, and we'll get to that with Donkey Kong, because I'll at least say, thank God Donkey Kong's not the fall game. I'm glad that comes out at, like only a month later. But I think if you look at all their stuff, ironically, I feel like we should be universally making fun of the paid tech demo the most. But the real big loser for it is sadly Dragon Drive, just because it's like it's just the most visually boring looking out of all of them. Like the only thing presentationally that's interesting about it is that Dragon Drive has the controls, which I'm sure you will still be able to just use normal thumbsticks,
Hmm.
and then the big arms. But even then, the big arms don't even seem that crazy.
The best thing they could possibly do is like retcon that it takes place in the Arms universe.
It went in like the most boring universe, dude. Like the amount of like the characters, arms doesn't get enough love. People need to show more respect to the arms universe.
Yeah, it had potential.
I'm still thinking about Twintel to this day. To this day. God damn, bro. She didn't even use her arms. She was just a big, thick, beautiful lady with fucking magnificent hair. We let her in anyway. The game wasn't called Locks, it was called Arms, and we still let her play.
Perfect
Damn.
character.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say perfect. Min Min goes hard. Her arms are just noodles. I don't even know where to start with that one. But yeah, fucking Arms is so great. So amazing, but just so underloved. Um but yeah, we got on a very big tangent there, but you were saying so you're still into the system. You've got some concerns on the price and stuff obviously. Do you think you'll be in day one though? Like if you can get this, do you think you would want this at launch or do you think you'd still wait and see?
Uh, I don't know. I think if I can do it, I'm most likely gonna just pre-order it. But if something comes up, then I'll just like wait, because like I didn't get the Switch until like 2018. That was about a year after.
Dang. How'd you wait so
Because
long?
they were sold out.
Oh, that's true.
I was just like I couldn't get any of them, so I just like kind of gave up. Um,
It was a long wait to play Xenoblade 2.
yeah, that was the first game I got too. I got that shit and didn't put it
So,
down. But if I can't get it, I would definitely will. I was even thinking about it when I was like walking to the store. I was like, am I gonna get two? Like, am I gonna get one for my roommate? Or am I just gonna get it for myself? And like,
is the for you out of the two, do you think? And we'll kind of get into this because it'll lead into the digital and physical thing for it. Out of the two options, do you think you would go with just the system itself, or would you do the Mario bundle?
yeah, I definitely do the Mario bundle to at least get a game with it.
It's really funny because like even though Mario Kart launching with it is like the smartest thing Nintendo's like ever done in terms of like having like a launch game, Mario Kart being the new Mario Kart, it being as big as it is, and it being a launch game, especially with there not being that many games available at launch, especially from Nintendo, is so devilishly smart. But like at the same time, normally I would be like, "Oh, cool, save $30, get the game bundled in digitally." But I'm also a sicko who wants to have a fucking red cartridge with this
Mhm.
game, and so it's really funny. I'm like, when they announced it, I was like, "Oh, it's $50 more, and I'm sure the game will be like 70." I'm like, uh, $20 more just to have it physically isn't the end of the world. I'll probably still do it and suck it up. And then when we kind of found out more about the prices, I'm like, man, it is really hard to like justify the hey, I'm gonna go out of my way to pay $30 more for this game. Although I guess the only saving grace, I bet you it will be the less popular bundle. Like, I bet you more people want Mario Kart, and that since I want the one without the game, I bet you would at least hypothetically be easier to get.
Mhm.
That being said, especially with how much of a fucking nightmare hellscape the year 2025 has been for scalpers and stuff, I am not looking forward to getting a pre-order for this. My gut tells me, though, I don't think it's going to be terrible. but I also don't think it's going to be like easy. Like the last time a new system came out, I remember when the PS5 got announced, like officially. 30 minutes went by. I found out GameStop was doing it in store, like super limited. I drove up. I gave them like $50, and then I got it in. Nowadays, with everything being so much more online than in store, like what's crazy is the only store that you can go in to pre-order systems that we know of is GameStop, and even GameStop is like, oh well, we know you can do it online, but they won't know how many until next week with their allotments and
Yeah.
stuff. So, like, even Best Buy announced. Best Buy was like, oh, yeah, we'll be selling them in store, but, like, Best Buy, you will only be able to pre-order in-store games. You cannot pre-order the system in store. So, I'll have a probably better report next week about hopefully me not crashing out and burning too hard. I'm actually kind of curious because I've been doing the math of like, what do I realistically want, and we'll kind of get into it because like, I feel like the Switch 2 is going to have one of the weirdest fucking launch lineups. Like how many games can you think of like that at least pop up into your head of like games that will be on a store shelf that say Switch 2 at launch? Like how many can you think of right now?
At least 7.
So, as of right now, on launch day, like confirmed with a physical copy, this is so weird. We've got Mario Kart, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Kirby Forgotten Land, what's the other one? Bravely Default Remastered, which, what a fucking choice. Way to go, Square Enix. Uh, Street Fighter 6. That might be it. It might be 6. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that we know are on June 6th, like with a physical cartridge. That might literally be it. I'll double check, but damn, I can't believe it's even less than that. I guess to be fair, Nintendo Switch 1 had actually a worse lineup. Nintendo Switch 1 launched with 5 physical games. I remember because I bought every one of them. It had Breath of the Wild, Just Dance 2017, 1-2 Switch, Bomberman R, and Skylanders Imaginator.
Hmm. Oh, is the Yakuza 0 getting a physical?
Ooh, you're right. That is launch day. That is getting a physical, so that brings us up to 7. Although that might also be through limited run games, so prepare for the monkey paw there. We know a physical's happening, but they haven't. No store has it up for pre-order, so that might be why.
Oh, okay, I see now. Yeah, it's just coming soon.
But yeah, at the very least, we at least have 7. Which honestly, what a weird, but not. I'm not mad at it. Launch library, and plus all the stuff they'll have like digitally. Like the fact that Toby Fox is still not making us pay for Deltarune is fucking insane to me.
Oh, I didn't even notice that 3 and 4 are going to be free as well.
Well, he hasn't mentioned anything about price, and if I remember, the whole thing with Deltarune is the plan is to charge for it eventually.
Yeah, I thought it was like.
But you feel it.
Sorry.
No, because like I purposefully haven't played 2 because I thought we were kind of getting close, but he's been working on 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 for so long that it's like we're closer to 5 and 6 being done that I'm kind of like, well, I've waited so long I really want to play it, but also at the same time, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in a weird spot with Deltarune because like I'm really jonesing to play it, but I'm also like, is it worth it to still wait? You know?
I think it will. I mean, I still haven't even finished the first chapter.
The first chapter is great. Though I was so blown away at how much is in that first chapter, and then everyone I know who's played chapter 2 is like, "Oh, it's infinitely better than the first one." It's like, fuck, that is crazy.
I mean, just the first like 5 minutes of the game, I thought it was better than Undertale, and that's not to say that Undertale's bad, but like,
Let me tell you about this dog shit game called Undertale.
but I mean, like, it
oh,
like
dude,
a step up, you know. I was just like, oh wow, this is fucking awesome.
Another launch game. I forgot we have this one. Cyberpunk is also one. Cyberpunk's got its dick out, by the way. Cyberpunk right now is the only third-party game that is confirmed to be all on the cartridge. So Cyberpunk is the Ultimate Edition with the Phantom Liberty DLC. It is the first Nintendo Switch 2 game that will be using a 64 gig cartridge with all the expansion and update on the cart. No download needed.
Hmm. Okay.
Which I think is a cool flex because they did the same thing with Witcher 3 when that came to Switch.
Ah. Huh. Wait, how did
But
Witcher
let's
3
see.
do on the Switch, like in terms of sales?
Very good. Very good. It sold. That was there were two surprisingly big ports that came on Switch from the same. I think it was Saber who did both the ports. They also did the Dying Light 1 port. Dying Light 1 also did crazy well on Switch.
Hmm. Oh, Hitman is also going to be on June.
Hitman will also be there, but that's digital only.
Okay.
Also, the amount of people who have brought this up, very, very
Oh wait,
justifiably,
no,
by
it
the
says
way,
physical copies as well.
for Hitman
Yeah,
3?
pre-orders for
Well,
both
Hitman World of
digital
Assassination?
and physical copies of Hitman. Yeah.
Dang. All right, we're getting closer to 10. I'm already happy. Listen, this system could literally fart itself out with Mario Kart, and I'd be like, I'm fine. My broke ass can barely afford one game. I don't need fucking more than one. So I'm cool with that. But no, that's cool. At least that we're getting more because like they have a lot of stuff for launch. We just don't know hard yes or no's, physical versus digital on some of them. Did you see the pre-order bonus for Hitman on Switch?
No. Oh wait, no, I saw the duck suit.
Did you notice that I legitimately cannot believe that Nintendo let them do this. I am sure that this was happening before the news.
Oh.
The Luigi costume. Like, legitimately, how long until that gets removed? I'm like, bro, this dude, and which, by the way, because this got, I'm sure, swept into the news because of the Switch 2, Luigi Mangione official update for all no people asking, is possibly facing the death penalty, which I'm just like, well, at least his memory will live on in Hitman on the Switch fucking 2.
I doubt it's gonna get taken out. I mean, like
Literally, the only way that it will be more fucked is because in Hitman, you can actually, like, make your own missions. And you know someone's gonna do a health insurance CEO mission. Like, you know someone's gonna do that
there's
shit.
gonna be that, the Shinzo Abe doohickey takedown and all that. Like,
I forget which podcast I was listening to. I was listening to some comedian's podcast. And it was like, they mentioned Shinzo Abe, and they were like, hold on, no, I think it was Jon Stewart actually on the Daily Show. But he was just mentioning that. He was like, you ever think about that? You ever think? No, it was not. It was very close. It was Jon Stewart. It's like, you ever think about the fact that we just had the Prime Minister of Japan get assassinated like less than 2 years ago, and we just don't mention it. We just let it go. we just let that fact go on every day. Like, well, I guess that's another one down. Fucking, we live in an actual fucking cartoon fantasy land sometimes. That's what I fucking know.
oh my god, I typed in Hitman, but I played Hitman World of Association.
That's the spiritual successor actually. Hitman Guilty by Association. But for you though, how are you feeling about the launch lineup? Because like I think most systems usually launch a little bit light, but once they kind of like decided like, okay, we're launching with Mario Kart, everything else was just kind of gravy.
I think it's okay. Like, I wish there was like a little bit more, but that's just me being really greedy. But I think it's okay for now. Like, we know that we're gonna get a lot of cool shit later on.
Oh, I mean, like, literally, again, 1 month after the system coming out, having a new 3D Donkey Kong game is, I think, fucking insane. Let me see if I'm pulling up any other ones. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything else from launch. Elden Ring is a maybe. Elden Ring might have a physical, but it looks like From is actually publishing that and not Bandai, or at least for right now.
Yeah, didn't From Software like get the rights for Elden Ring?
Yeah, From Software owns the rights to Elden Ring completely. They just work with Bandai when it comes to like
Publishing stuff.
releasing like the physical copies and stuff. Yeah, but they get all that money, and the same thing with Dusk Blood, which I mean, honestly, we can bring up Dusk Blood now. When that started playing, it was so funny because like that trailer was like, "Here's our final announcement from third party," and I saw that and I was like, "Why does this look like FromSoft?"
Yeah.
But I'm like, "But it's Nintendo. There's no way. Like we already got Elden Ring. We're not gonna get fucking a new FromSoft game." And it was like, oh, it's because at first I was like, oh, is it maybe Lies of P? Because I was getting such Bloodborne vibes. I'm
I
like,
thought it
oh,
was
maybe it's
Castlevania.
Lies of P. Castlevania as well. It gave a lot of different vibes. That like then when I saw it finally, because they show in that trailer for Dusk Blood a lot of gameplay before the FromSoft logo.
Oh no, it's just the first thing we saw was the hand and then the symbol, and then it did the front from software's logo.
I just like could not believe that we're getting a brand new IP from FromSoft launching only on Switch. Nintendo is funding the money for it. It is a Nintendo published FromSoft game that From owns the rights to completely, and it's directed by Miyazaki. I'm like, who? Like, literally, who in the holy hell set this up? And clearly someone at PlayStation is, like,
They're punching the air
committing
right now.
seppuku. Yeah, like, they're seppukuing themselves instantly.
Jim Ryan is gonna wake up dead.
It was the Concord guy. They were like, all right, you have the money for new FromSoft game or Concord. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, it's fucking absolutely wild. Especially because the trailer was very interesting. Of like, it had moments of sort of showing. It had moments that kind of showed off multiplayer aspects, but it doesn't really give away that it is a player versus enemy game until you really find it out later. But I think, especially, and I said this a little bit before, but like, especially with how many people really went away from the Night Rain beta happy about it, I was like, oh well, like I think way more people have faith in this now after so many multiplayer games coming from FromSoft, let alone the fact that I think even if that wasn't the case, just the fact alone that it is straight up Miyazaki himself directing this
Hmm.
is like, oh yeah, you get a
Yeah,
pass.
and honestly,
Because
oh
like
sorry,
the man, no, you're good. I was like, because his whole thing is like, not many game directors have that kind of a pedigree that he has for his games that he's directed. Like literally any like what I mean even I think Being Kind, the weakest game he has made is Dark Souls 1, which is still a fucking accomplishment.
mm,
Unless I'm forgetting like something he directed on like the PS3 era, I just like I'm like his best game is still like an S tier level game.
yeah. I was trying to see if
But
he
you were
did
saying,
Metal Wolf Chaos real quick.
ooh, I don't. He was around it from there, but I feel like that was somebody
Ah,
else.
okay,
I
yeah,
mean, fuck.
it was someone
Honestly,
else.
I would still put Metal Wolf Chaos over Dark Souls 1. I'm a man of culture.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I was just looking at things. I was just gonna say, honestly, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, here we go. You know what? We'll give it to Daracine.
Darcine.
Fucking no one in the chat's gonna be like, "Oh, damn, bro, you're not gonna give love to Daracine." Daracine definitely is a worse game than than fucking. Do you even remember what that game is, by
Yeah,
the
I
way?
remember it. I remember it a lot because I remember that was the game that started the whole Bloodborne 2 thing, and just like
Jesus Christ.
we went crazy with that.
Um, man, yeah.
I was gonna say, I noticed that there's some people that it's like not interested because it's saying like, oh, it's a PvPvE like type game, but I'm like, people, I keep saying we should wait until they actually show us more of the game because back then when Dark Souls came out, they were like presenting it as like a multiplayer game,
Very
but then
true.
it turned out to be
I would
like
be
the way it
shocked
is.
if there's no single player component.
There has to be. They're not going to show you all this like character driven stuff and have the trailer be
Yeah,
all
and
like this, and
like
then it's like, oh, here's a multiplayer game. Like, what the fuck?
there seems to be even more story than Night Rain, which is funny because Night Rain even has a single player mode. Like you can play Night Rain
Yeah.
solo.
So I feel like this is just Miyazaki doing something different again, but with the same like template of a Souls game.
Man, they do it. They don't do it as often, but I know that there has to be one of the asked developers when this game comes out. Of like, I cannot wait to find out who at Nintendo set this meeting up. Like it is still such a weird
Doug
partnership
Bowser.
that I am all here for. I'd be like, it was Reggie's final wish that FromSoft made a game on the Switch too. Because like I feel like, especially knowing FromSoft and how long they do their development cycles for some stuff, and especially in the planning stage, I wouldn't be shocked if this started as like a Switch 1 game, and they're like, guys, we got it up to 30 FPS. And they're like, do you just want to make this a Switch 2 exclusive? And they're like, you bet. But I think it's cool. I think we now at this point though, kind of like similar to Night Rain, it's like I'm excited for it, but I'm not going to like treat this like some of the internet, because like there is definitely some of the internet who's getting a little too into this about being like, oh, it is just straight up Bloodborne 2. It's not Bloodborne 2. There's a lot of cool stuff with it, but I'm like, I want to wait and see some more gameplay. And I think especially once the gameplay kind of gets revealed, especially with the traversal, that'll get a lot more crazy. Because like fucking, we were seeing like what, like jetpacks and like other shit. Like the the game itself just looks like literally insane.
Yeah. I mean, like, it feels like what they did from Demon Souls to Dark Souls, basically. Which is funny because it's the same scenario with Sony holding another one of their IPs and just not doing anything with it.
So man, I'm so curious to like see the fly in the wall discussions with this, especially of like if this just never leaves the Switch 2, it will be the funniest exclusive like since Marvel 3. Because like the Switch doesn't give that many like other outside party exclusives that stay there forever.
Yeah.
But anytime they do, man, it always makes me laugh. It just always makes me like giggle like so much more than it should. Because I bet you, especially like the PC fans, it's like, listen, you can be like, nah, dog. I don't need Mario Kart, and then they see new FromSoft game, and like, oh fuck, I'm cooked.
Yeah, like I'm excited for this. Like I want it to do really well, so then we could get like a Dusk Blood 2, and it's just like, what's going on, Sony?
Oh, fuck me. I just want, give me at this point a FromSoft amiibo so we can get
Yeah,
someone to put next to Solaire.
that'd be nice.
Just give me some weird fucking like minstrel vampire amiibo.
This makes
Oh
them
my
like
god.
one step closer to the Evergrace remake.
Would you say, I feel like for me, I'm probably biased just from how much of a FromSoft fan I am. I legitimately feel like though this is probably their biggest win out of the whole show for third party. I feel like that was their biggest like oh fuck
Yeah,
moment.
definitely. Just the way that they presented it, and like it, the last games in the directs are always like the big like here's one more thing, like it's that Uno Mas like type of hype that comes out.
Well, unfortunately, now I have to talk about the game that followed it up. Because do you remember what was the game that followed up immediately after Blood Dusk
Donkey Kong, wasn't it?
or Dusk Blood? No, it was before Donkey
Oh,
Kong. In between brand new Donkey Kong and brand new FromSoft game, fucking Kirby Air Riders.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Silk Song. I was like, oh yeah, there's that. For a quick
No,
second.
no, that would have been too good. Kirby Air Riders, which I can only imagine gave every 30-something GameCube hard-on freako just the wettest of wet dreams. Because, like, Kirby Air Ride is such a funny game of like low IQ move. Hey guys, let's dust off the GameCube and play Double Dash and Melee. Super ultra weeb move. Hey guys, let's dust off the GameCube and do an 8-player LAN party of Kirby Air Ride. Like Kirby Air Ride was one of those games that like if you know this game and especially if you've played this game, the fans of Kirby Air Ride dick ride this game like it is the magnum opus of fucking Sakurai. Yeah. Like literally, I've known people out there who are like, "Listen, Smash Ultimate's pretty good, but we need a new Kirby Air Ride." I will at least say this as someone who has been I've been a outsider looking into Kirby Air Ride for many years. I was very late to the GameCube myself. I had it was pretty much like for me, my GameCube was Zelda, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, and maybe Smash Brothers. Like it was a very limited hardware thing for me, and so I've played Kirby Air Ride. I'm not very good at it, but like I always appreciated it and like how weird it was, and I thought it was fun. But I was like, I don't know, man. Like even though Kirby is so popular, I'm like, I just don't know how you bring it back. And I think the only answer ended up being, you have to make the best Smash Brothers game of all time, and then go, well, fuck, how do we make another one of these? And then you just go, I'm going to go make YouTube videos for a year, and then make a new Kirby Air Ride game. And then you go, okay, I guess. Like, do you have much of a history for Kirby Air Ride?
No, never played it. Never played it at all.
I will say, it's at least worth, like, giving it a chance. Like, pop it in a Dolphin emulator, play a couple of levels. The campaign's not terrible. It's if only for the fact that if you think you know how that game plays, you don't.
Oh, I've watched people play it, but I just never was interested. And I do have it. I just like I never just got to it.
It's just it's probably got to be one of the weirder GameCube exclusives, which is really saying something in a world where Odama exists.
Odama?
Yeah, Odama was that, like, Edo period pinball game for the GameCube. If you look it up, I bet you've seen the art. It's, like, one of the weirdest GameCube exclusives.
I've never seen this game. What the hell?
Really? Oh, my God, dude, that's gonna... Now, that's a fucking game where if, like, you just want to start, like, tripping, just boot up Odama at, like, 2 in the morning.
This looks really weird. Like, what the fuck?
It's fun. Odama is a fun game. I forget who makes it. I want to say it's like Pyramid or something, but Odama is definitely up there as like one of the weird fucking GameCube exclusives. But
Vivarium? Vivarium? Oh, I don't know how to say their name.
No idea.
That is so hard to say.
But yeah, I'm glad it's happening. I genuinely cannot believe it's coming out this year. Maybe they'll show it off in the next month or two. Because so far the first year of the Switch 2 is just literally feels like every month they're trying to come out with like 2 big games, which is kind of crazy. Even if it's like a port of an older game getting new content again. I think it's still early to, especially based on the trailer for it, but like that was like, if you know someone who peed their pants at Tomodachi Life getting a sequel, Kirby Air Riders is that for like neckbeard dudes in their 30s. Like 100%. And that's not even an insult. That's just like, listen, I know the demographic of people who fuck hard with Kirby Air Ride, and like it's a lot of those dudes, and they're happy.
Yeah, probably like Wooly from Castle Super Beast is probably losing the shit right now.
I will say, though, what got way, way, way more of a reaction out of me, even more than a brand new Donkey Kong, which, I mean, you know, honestly, I will at least say this. I think if people were not expecting a new Donkey Kong, I genuinely am curious if people weren't feeling that trailer, because I feel like that trailer did such a great job of just being like, listen, if you like Donkey Kong or not, like, if you are a fan of 3D platformers and thought, dang man, Astrobot sure had a lot of good shit last year, I am so ready to try the new Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see people speedrunning though. Just what the weird
Oh,
mechanics it has.
I mean, man, I can't even imagine like I didn't even think about the speedrunning aspect of it, just because like looking at his traversal seemed insane. Of like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about the fact of like everything is destructible and everything is climbable.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh, this game's gonna get insane. Did you play much of Bowser's Fury?
No, never played that one either.
So I assume it was the last game you played by that team. Probably did you play
Yeah.
Odyssey? So like it's the same team who did that. There's some stuff that they had like kind of learned and were using in Bowser's Fury that I see that they're kind of putting in here, especially with like the larger worlds and
Hmm.
stuff. It is just so funny though of like it's crazy to see that this game is happening, is that it's coming out so soon. It looks as polished as it does. And then the funniest thing about it that I keep having to remind myself is that it's not even this team's first Donkey Kong game. It's their second.
Are they the ones who did the remasters for Tropical Bird?
No. No, that's rare. So, in terms of original developed games, this is the I think it's uh Tezuka, or I forget the 3D Mario team's actual name and their director who works with them all. But no, Koizumi. There we go. It's Koizumi's team. Koizumi's team, before they did a lot of 3D Mario's in between um, Galaxy and Sunshine, they did Jungle Beat.
Oh,
And even though that was 2D, that was the first Nintendo developed Donkey Kong game in between the Rare era where Rare and Retro had it. So even looking at Jungle Beat, especially because they released some art and stuff too, this game feels very Jungle Beat coded in terms of like the character design.
hmm.
Um, how are we feeling about the new Donkey Kong look? I was a little worried about it when we first saw it like a month or two ago for like that split second in the new Mario Kart. I feel like I folded immediately. I'm like, oh, I love
I,
it. I feel like it works so much better than it
I
should.
like it. I noticed people were saying that it makes him look younger. It's his eyes. But I like the overalls and stuff. Like it makes to me it's kind of like a time skip like outfit, you know? Like it just feels nice to have him in that.
I almost have a weird feeling like it's going to be a sequel to Donkey Kong Country,
That would be
in the
funny.
sense of like how in Donkey Kong Country, original arcade Donkey Kong was Cranky Kong and you were Donkey Kong
Yeah.
Jr. I feel like we're now, if we're not like we're if we're not Donkey Kong's descendant, we're related to that one
Mm.
somehow, you know? Just because it feels still so connected to that world while also at the same time being like very different. Like even in just like the mannerisms and other things with it. And I mean even the fact of like they had like for a split second in there, the fact that the fucking first level from Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo is a level was insane.
What is that? The ingot?
No, there's a for like a split second when it's showing a bunch of trailers at the end of the Bonanza trailer. One of the levels is a forced 2D perspective, and it's
Oh, okay.
literally the opening level of Donkey Kong Country.
I was thinking that was like a mini game type thing because like how Sonic will sometimes go 2D for a bit.
That's true, and I mean honestly, I could either seeing it be like a bonus game thing or like a gimmicky one or whatever. Um, I just like I'm like, especially because the team who made Odyssey hasn't done a main game in so many years. I'm like, they've cooked on this so long. I'm like, this is if like yeah. I was like, especially I will really say, I'm very excited. Their pedigree is amazing. The only thing you've got to wonder did Astrobot coming out light a fire up their ass to feel like they have to do anything more?
I
You
bet it
know?
did.
Um, I guess really with that, the only other like last kind of big Nintendo one to talk about with it would be Mario Kart World. How much of a Mario Kart fan would you say you are?
I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, but I enjoy it when they come out. Like I've played every single
I
one that's come out.
I would say I am not hardcore, but I have also put more hours than probably a normal person would put into Mario Kart. Of like, I love them all. They're all entertaining. They are some of the best in their class. But I don't kind of like I don't like infinitely go back to them. When there's new levels, I check them out. I have enjoyed pretty much every single game with the exception of Tour, and I'm sure probably put like Super Circuit or something in there just because I didn't play it much back when it came out originally. But I mean, I probably feel confident saying I've at least put probably over 100 hours into MK8, just in between both
Hmm.
systems. So it's kind of funny because I feel like they showed the least amount of this game, but we also have a direct coming out for Mario Kart World soon, which I
Tomorrow.
cannot.
Really.
No, no, no. So tomorrow they're showing it off. They're doing a full-on direct for it on the 19th.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
So they're doing a full direct later in April. And even with everything we've seen from the website and the new modes and everything else, I felt overwhelmed when I saw initially how many like characters could be on a race at a time with it being like 24 now.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then started looking at all the other stuff of like the world is just one big connected map. Driving to everything, the open world section, everything. Like the only way this game could get more, like I would say right now, I'm realistically like a 9.5 out of 10 levels of hype. The only way it could like blow the like scale for me would be like if they end up announcing either tomorrow or before launch that it has like a single player campaign is like the only other thing that they could do to
Oh,
make me
it
more excited.
definitely is gonna have one, like akin to like Crash Team Racing. I think it's gonna have that. The fact that it's an open world,
I would be so shocked if not. I would be so shocked.
like they're like, oh, you can take pictures and stuff. Like I feel like we're gonna be doing like Fast and Furious, like shit, like just
Well, and it's crazy too, like how much more of a social element they have in the game while still feeling like Mario Kart. Like I think the fact that it's there if you want it, but if you just want to do the cups, you can still just play like regular old Mario Kart is really smart. I sent you a picture by the
yeah. I'm
way.
looking at it right now.
So this isn't even the final roster. It is over 50 confirmed playable
Mm.
characters, which is insane. Uh, I will say, definitely you could tell that after the DLC, they were like, "Oh, who do we include after
I
this now?"
like this though.
Because now, oh no, I 100% do. Like the characters who are in this game now that are new are all the
Yeah.
weirdos. Like obviously the big meme today was the cow. The cow from Moo Moo Hills is like so perfect. But I thought it was so funny of like we literally have characters as so like forget about it as, "Oh, do you remember the wallet from 3D World?" You can play. Do you want to play as Do you want to play as the skeleton fish? You got it, buddy.
I wonder if they're gonna add in fuck the one of the flower people from what is it called? The God damn, I forgot the newest
You're not talking about the Pianta people, are you? From
no,
Sunshine?
no, no, the newest 2D Mario game. Wonder.
Oh, Wonder. I still haven't played Wonder actually. I bet that's a good point. If nothing, at the very least, we need the main talking flower to just be a driver who's just a flower on the seat, no moving. But like, it's crazy that not only did they like really lean into the roster without even getting any crossover characters included, because like, look, there's no Mario, no Splatoon. Sorry, there's no Splatoon, no
Mario just
Zelda, no Animal Crossing. But like the crazier one with it is like I bet you that they will still do that on top of the fact that every character now has customization
hmm
options. So I actually weirdly I hope that they lean more into character customization because every time I boot up Mario Kart 8, the one thing that I'm like, "Ah, why is this here? Is the cart customization affecting the
Yeah, that
stats?
sucked.
That that's the one thing where I'm like, I appreciate it, but when there's a meta that works, everyone's just gonna pick the best stats that work. It's never like it never feels like you're doing it just because what looks fun. We joked about this a little bit earlier, but like, especially after playing the beta, neither you or I were very impressed with it. But if I was Sega and Sonic Team right now, I would be like, man, our game is gonna look like such ass compared to this game.
The only saving grace they have is the price.
Which is true. We still don't have a release date for it. I guess there is a chance if they just push this back as close to Thanksgiving as possible, then maybe they can just like get some sales that way. Because like otherwise, I don't know. It's just so weird. Of like, especially because this will be on Switch 2, and this is only on Switch 2, whereas Sonic Cross Worlds is on everything. I feel like unless they do some dramatic change, the fact that this comes out first and then Sonic comes out after, it's like every review is just going to be comparing it, and it will not be in its
Yeah,
favor. It doesn't look better. It doesn't play better. The roster is not going to be as fun, and the tracks look infinitely more boring than this.
unfortunate.
Which is a bummer because like you and I were excited about Crossworlds at first. It was like they were saying a lot of things that sounded like the right stuff. It just kind of sucks that it feels like even though they're putting a lot of time into this game, it still just kind of feels like they're farting this game out too quickly.
Definitely, and just also just it's not the same developers as before.
Yeah, I was bummed when I found out it wasn't Sumo. It's very weird that it's not them, especially considering they did such a good job with Racing Transformed that like I feel like we just can't. I don't know. It's just so weird. It's like how do you make All Star Racing 1 a very good like 7 out of 10 and then follow it up with an even better game, like an infinitely better game with All Stars Racing Transformed, and then just go like, we will now never meet this quality ever again.
Never. And like Transform was like my go-to like for racing games. Like
Oh, I booted it up after the beta. I was like, I found my copy. I found my copy on Vita, and I was playing it, and I was like, oh, let's see it. Let's see how Transform hold up. Oh, it totally does still.
yeah. It just
And that was the fucking handheld version.
yeah, it was just so disappointing. I was just like they just I feel like it was originally supposed to be a riders game, but then they were like let's turn it into the kart racing game.
There is a bit of a saving grace in the sense of they did say that there is Sega crossover elements. We just don't know what it is yet. If they pull out some real nostalgia baity ass shit and they put fucking Shenmue again, Phantasy Star characters, and other tracks like that, and they don't like nickel and dime it, I will still be morbidly interested. But like right now, there's no Sonic deep cut character they could include that would like save that game's roster. Because even now, it still just looks like, okay, clearly you wanted to do a Riders game and then realized you had to make a kart
Yeah.
racer.
The only way I'd see them doing any good is like you said, just having more characters, but they would have to go really crazy, like putting Jack Frost and fucking John Metaphor in here. Or excuse me, Will Metaphor.
Oh my god. John Metaphor's in the sequel. Um, I guess at least the last thing with that, I do want to say with it is, I hope that Sega can turn around with it, because honestly, I think they've been doing a lot more better than worse with how they've treated Sonic recently. I just think, with the exception of something like Sonic Superstars, it's like it just feels like right now we're still at that cycle. Even though we take a little bit longer with some games in development, it still feels like one game's a hit, one game's a
Yeah.
miss. And unfortunately, we had our hit last year, and it feels like we're going to miss next year.
So it does feel like they're preparing for something big, but it's just like,
Oh, for sure. For sure, for
damn,
sure.
like please, just give us at least like a three game or three like project like hit, you know? Like
Um, the only other. Because I'm looking at everything here, there were two games I wanted to ask about for you. Where are you at with Metroid Prime 4?
I'm excited. I've been waiting for that since Metroid Prime 3 came out.
I've never played a Prime game until Remastered
Oh
came
my
out.
God.
I just somehow missed them all.
Wow.
I had a GameCube. I never played Trilogy on Wii, and I was like, and it's weird because it's like I love Metroid. I never played Prime. Actually, no. This makes it even worse. I have played Prime. My only Prime I ever played was Prime Hunters.
I've never played that one. I only played the demo because I had it for the when the
It
DS came out.
is. It is fine. Prime Hunters is fine. But yeah, after playing one remastered, just being like, damn, y'all been hiding this for 20 years
Yeah.
on me?
That's the only thing I'm kind of confused
um,
about, that they didn't do Prime Hunters Remastered because that's going to be important to 4.
that Yeah, and you know what? What's weirdly funny is I almost am like I feel like they might try to sneak something else out, or I mean, I say that because I'm like, oh well, it's Metroid and story matters, but then also we got to remember they released Metroid Dread and just said fuck you to everyone who's never played
I mean,
Fusion
like,
because it's like
when you start,
it matters, but it doesn't really matter.
yeah. I mean, well, at least Dread they give you like a backstory thing so you can catch up on
Yes,
it.
and I feel like four is probably going to be that way of like we are canonically caring about the story, but really more than anything, it's like, just just go and do your cool psychic powers. You'll be
Yeah.
fine.
The one thing I'm kind of like worried about is that there doesn't like it could change the more like information we get about the game, but it kind of seems like they're kind of getting rid of the like horror aspect that Prime had. And it feels like Dread took all of that.
I get that. I feel like we've seen a lot, but also still have a lot of questions with it. That I wouldn't be surprised because there was that ominous figure we saw at the direct last week
Hmm.
on like the throne. I wouldn't be shocked if that's kind of like our nemesis character for the game.
Oh yeah, the our nemesis so far I believe is going to be Silex from Hunter.
Which you know what that's true. It also could be him because we've seen him only like once, so it's kind of hard to really say. It's just going to be tricky, just because Emmy was such the perfect antagonist character in Dread that it's going to be kind of hard to follow up for Prime Four.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if they can give us that horror aspect that the previous games had, it'll be the greatest game of all time, in at least within the Prime series. And if they could go even crazier by giving us like a pursuer, like a Mr. X for this game.
This will be a wild one though. I feel like it's kind of funny. We were all expecting like Metroid Prime Four to be like the big launch game,
Hmm.
and the fact that we still don't know when it's coming out, I almost feel like I guess there's a chance it might be the holiday game, or at least closer to fall than anything. Even though we have a couple other games coming out this fall that we know about, and it's just extra wild because like I feel like right now, even though it's a cross-gen game, I feel like Prime Four is the most technically impressive game we've seen.
Hmm.
Just in the sense of like they they were like, hey, we've got the cojones of this game. Literally, at the ugliest you can play this game is 4K 60. It's like that's like such a that is just like such a confidence drop thing. Which I mean, honestly, like Retro deserves it, especially with like how good Prime 1 Remastered looked and played was insane. So seeing them really kind of get to stretch their legs with Prime 4 is going to be insane. But it's just so funny of like, do you remember like how long, and I mean, fucking May, it felt like forever, but like, do you remember how hyped we were for Bayo 3 getting announced and how long that took to release?
I remember when we were waiting for two to come out.
That's true. But it's like that thing though of like the wait now for Prime 4 has been longer than Bayonetta 3,
Mhm.
which feels
Yeah.
insane.
Okay, looking at all the dates for the Prime games, you might be right. They've all come out around like August and November.
Yeah, so I just hope, especially with it not being a launch game but still launch year, I I'm like the best selling game in the series is still Dread. It's never been a series that has great sales anywhere in the world, but it's still really, really beloved. So I'm just like, man, I hope that we fucking hit with it finally. Because, like, Retro needs a win, and Metroid especially needs, like, I'm not saying I need them to become the next Zelda, because, like, I always find it funny, like, people compare, like, the sales numbers of Zelda before Breath of the Wild like it was dog shit. I was like, dude, Zelda released so many games, even in its, like, Twilight Princess Skyward Sword era, like, way more games than Metroid. Like, people, I don't think people understand. Metroid is such a soft seller. It literally feels like if it is not someone's passion project at Nintendo, I'm shocked. Because, like, seriously, like, I think we have a lot of the sales data on them. Like the only games that have ever broke a million for Metroid are like Super Metroid, Samus Returns, Prime, like just Prime 1, maybe Prime 3, and Dread. Like Dread being the best in the entire series, and it's not even over 5 million is crazy.
Sorry, I was looking up the sales for the other ones.
So I'm excited. I hope people are also excited. I also think that not being just Metroid Prime 4, like the subtitle for it probably will help as well, because Lord knows Metroid Dread did not need to be called Metroid 5 to sell more copies. Um, but I'm excited about that one. But I am legitimately too excited. I bet you right now, by the way, how confused were people during the Hyrule Warriors trailer when they saw the developer list? Because do you remember the developers that came up before the game was
It
shown?
was KT and AAA.
AAA, who a whopping zero people know. Do you know who AAA Game Studio
No.
is? So this is the most fucked like Japanese ass thing ever. So last year, may have even been January of this year, Koei Tecmo announced that they were forming a brand new studio called. No, sorry. They announced that they were forming a brand new AAA game studio with a bunch of team who had worked on a bunch of Koei Tecmo, Omega Force, and Team Ninja games. And primarily it was the team who was responsible for Hyrule Warriors 1 and Age of Calamity and a bunch of the other stuff they done, like Other M, a bunch of other team members. Took a bunch of people from Omega Force and Team Ninja, and they said, we are making a AAA game studio with them. They have not released a game yet. Age of Imprisonment, the new Hyrule Warriors, we'll just call it Hyrule Warriors 3. That got announced today, and literally their name is AAA Game Studio. Which I don't think they understand. I like my hope is maybe they have a real name and they just haven't told us yet. Is like that is the most ungoogleable name ever. Have you ever tried just looking up AAA Game
I
Studio?
just did, and I got so many different things.
Like literally, I think to find out the specifics of the announcement, you have to put in AAA Game Studio Koei Tecmo announcement. And I was really, really excited about this team, but for whatever reason in my brain, I was like, oh, well, if it's a brand new team, I bet their first new game is just going to be a new IP. So the fact that it is just straight up this team's first project is a Hyrule Warriors 3, And it is not only just that it's Hyrule Warriors 3, it's more than anything an Age of Calamity 2, which more than anything is just a Tears of the Kingdom prequel. Makes me so fucking excited because I love Age of Calamity. I thought it was so much better than it had any right to be. It was an incredible technical disaster, but it was fun as fuck to play, and it told a really interesting what if Zelda storyline that now we're going to get that, but for Tears of the Kingdom, with the coolest caveat is, because I don't think a lot of people realize this, the coolest part about this
That
Hyrule
fucking
Warriors
twink is there.
is that, well, also, yeah, there's no Link, though. There's no Link at all in it. Like, I am sure he will be an unlockable character, but, like, the fact that, like, the game is primarily going to be you playing as Zelda, getting all the Guardians together, is so fucking
Yeah.
cool. Oh my god, I didn't even think about this. We'll get to play as Matthew Mercer Ganon, too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, do you think we'll be able to? And this is very big spoilers. Uh, you think they'll be ballsy and let us play as Dragon?
Dragon confirmed. So, did you ever play Age of Calamity?
No.
The character sizes were massive. So, you actually, one of the last characters you could unlock in Age of Calamity was Calamity Ganon.
Like the
You know the giant dragon form from Breath of the Wild. He was playable.
oh wow.
So 100,000%, this game will let you fucking play as dragons. Um, excited for that. Especially excited because I forget her name. Do you remember Raru's sister?
I don't remember her name, but I do remember like her whole like side quest and stuff.
I'm really excited about like her and all the other Guardians being alive because like that was the best part of Age of Calamity, of getting to play. By the way, if you have not played Age of Calamity, I am sure they will do like an enhanced version on Switch. But like, man, that game is so fun. It is such a wild what if story. That in terms of canon mattered very little, but it had so many cool like character interaction moments that like, I cannot recommend that game enough. So like literally my favorite Dynasty Warrior games of all time went like Hyrule Warriors, and then Age of Calamity came out, and then it was Age of Calamity. That it's like the like level of anticipation for this team, their pedigree, the universe that this is going to be in, and the fact that it's finally on hardware that's more powerful than a 2016 tablet, I like could not be more fucking excited. Like this is easily my most anticipated game of the year. Full stop. Throw everything else under the bridge.
Do you think they're gonna like how far do you think they're gonna go crazy with the story? Do you think they're gonna do Age of Calamity like like what ifs or
So the crazier thing about this is the producer was interviewed today for Age of Imprisonment, and they have said while Age of Calamity was not canon, Age of Imprisonment is 100% the canonical events that happened in the game.
So do you think we're gonna like?
So I feel.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I feel like with that, especially because of how little we saw, because like I was always so shocked in Tears of the Kingdom how little we saw of the flashbacks. I'm like, I feel like they're gonna go crazy, or they have to.
Like, do you think they're gonna give like? Because I remember in Tears of the Kingdom, one of the complaints was that all of the memories from each hero were the same when it got to their when they confronted Ganon.
Oh yeah,
So it's like,
that was so disappointing.
do you think they're gonna change that here, where it's like everyone's gonna have their own different pathway and like their perspective of that fight?
I would say so, especially just because their original Guardian ancestors just felt like such a carbon clone of their model with a mask on that I'm like, the game is already going to have a pretty limited roster of playable characters. And that was one of the biggest not complaints. That was one of the biggest fears of Age of Calamity until you played it, and then you realize, no. The game found ways because like that was the whole thing of what was funny. It was going from Hyrule Warriors to Age of Calamity. It's like, how are you going to have every Zelda game possible as a cast and then just go down to one game without it feeling disappointing. And then it was the weird things Age of Calamity did to make characters who were either new or new ways to sort of implement them in there. So I'm excited to see how, because that's definitely one of the biggest spots that they can improve on. Is yeah, those original Guardian Awakening scenes were just they were carbon copies of each other. They were almost all the same, and the fact that every Guardian was just the same person with a mask on felt so lame. So I'm like, I feel like that can be saved, and then that alone lets us add 5 brand new characters on their own.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm very optimistic there. The fact that it's coming out this year as their holiday title makes me even more so excited. I don't know how excited other people are going to be, but Age of Calamity sold like fucking hotcakes. And considering this is the only brand new Zelda game coming out this year, I will be shocked if this does not also sell crazy well.
I hope so. Like, I'm excited for that. Like, the moment I saw the fucking, like, the first scene, I was just like, I knew it was Zelda before she even started talking.
I'm also curious if how much they'll kind of keep of the like gameplay structure of the original, because I know some people didn't love the more heavy menu focus in Age of Calamity. I kind of liked it from a like clearing off a map perspective, but I'll be curious like how different this one wants to be with it. On top of the fact that I think there's also a lot of interesting thing gameplay wise that they can learn from Three Hopes. Did you play Three Hopes at all?
No.
So Three Hopes is probably like top 5 best warrior games ever made. And what sucks is I don't know if it just came out at a bad time or if people just thought it was just going to be a carbon copy of Three Houses. But like it's so good. It does so much to improve not only on the warrior mechanics but also like Three Houses in general. That like I always find it funny of like because you played Three Houses, right? Do you like the story in Three Houses?
Yeah, I think it's one. It's in fact it's the only Fire Emblem I've ever beaten.
Legitimately, like full stop. Three Hopes is a better story than Three Houses, and it's by the same writers, which is crazy.
I assume so. Like I remember people saying that it was good. It's just like I knew that like others were mad that apparently like it went against something like the creator said was like they would never work together or something shit like that.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's one of those things too of like because it does a similar thing of because if you get hung up on canons or like it drastically goes against everything Three Houses does. The only reason I liked it more was because I thought the fact that your character was a real character let the story matter a lot more than your Byleth, because your Byleth is just
doesn't say anything.
Fucking blank slate. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're a bag of rocks. Like, yeah, you're just following the story. Versus the other one, like Shay just feels like a way more of an actual person. No, not Shay. Shez. Shez feels like way more of an actual person.
Isn't he voiced by Damon Haas?
I think so. I always forget. I always forget who voices both because the guy and the girl are both done by pretty popular voice actors. But yeah, that game is like dirt cheap because I don't know if it just came out at a bad time, but I always see copies of that game for like $20 around here.
I'll have to get it and see how it is.
But yes, that was the game chat. Now we got to talk about the elephant in the room as we try to wrap up our ginormously long episode. So we found out about the price of the system, and you know we talked about this actually a little bit. I genuinely think 450 is kind of fair. I was expecting it to be at around 400, but I think after they showed off all the tech that's inside it, it made a little bit more sense. How do you feel about it price-wise? Do you think 450 was fair? Were you like thinking higher, lower? There were fucking people out there as of like even this morning. Literally, they were like, "Oh, it better not be 600." I'm like, "Fucking 600? What do you think Nintendo's doing with this thing?"
At first, I thought it was gonna be like 400, just mean like 399. But 450 is fine. I mean, wasn't the PS5 like 600, 500?
What was it? So PS5 launched at 5 with the disc drive, and then PS Pro is now 700.
Yeah.
With that disc drive.
I think this is a good price, especially with how much stuff is in it in terms of like in terms of like the graphics and stuff, like it being 4K, like off rip, compared to like the PS5 and the PS4. I think it's okay. And 400 is like half your paycheck, so it's just it's whatever.
Well, I mean, and I'm also coming from the case of like going off of how expensive I know like the ROG Ally and the like Steam Deck are. Like it's still cheaper than all of
Hmm.
those, and it's going to have way better support. Well, comparing better support to PC is not really fair, but it's going to have a crazy amount of support and for a long time for hardware that cheap versus like you buy a Steam Deck for 600 and like especially with a lot of these PC handhelds that people really like, the thing with it is they're being iterated on so fast. It's like phones. Like, yeah, there's probably going to be a new Steam Deck that comes out this year, and then there'll be another one that comes out 2 years later. And some people like upgrading that much every now and then, but then other people are like, oh, cool, I can just pick up the Switch 2, and I know I'll be good for like 6 to 7
Yeah,
years.
or until the OLED version comes out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna fold on that OLED immediately, but I'll at least be good. I'm always a sucker at launch. Like you have to really try for me to not want new hardware at launch. Cough cough PS5 Pro. But with Nintendo hardware, I'm always good at not double dipping even on like cool like hardware features until they do a special edition system. It's the special edition systems I fold like a fucking paper crane for.
Mm.
Yeah, so price aside, I think universally everyone agreed bundled price and normal price 450 to 500 is really really fair. The one that's got everybody's knickers in a twist is game price. And I think it's an interesting conversation because I think it's really easy to hear Mario Kart World costing $80 and then everyone losing their mind like the fucking Joker in The Dark Knight. But I think if you compare it to the fact that we're still selling games that cost 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I feel like it looks a lot more reasonable. And this is just my opinion. I've had a very unpopular opinion for years of I still think that it is amazing games don't cost more. I also am one of those people who is ready for GTA 6 to cost $100 or more. And especially now in a world where Nintendo is charging $80 for Mario Kart, you better fucking believe that you and like by the end of this year, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo will be publishing games that cost over $70. 100,000 fucking percent. Prepare your butts for it, because it's happening. Fucking Kojima's probably like, can we bump up Death Stranding 2 real quick? Like, we got a couple of weeks. Can we push those pre-orders back up? Nope, we can't. Ah, fuck. Ghost of Tsushima 2, definitely more than $70. Fucking Fable, even though that's not a game for this year, definitely more than a $70 game. It's just one of those crazy things, just being like, I get it. Things being more expensive suck, but also everything is getting more expensive. And if you look at like how little games get adjusted for price, and especially because this is the big one, everyone always is like, "Oh, well, inflation. Look at American prices. Well, look at how much this costs here." It's the thing that everyone outside of America yells at us about, and no one fucking listens. Everyone else in the rest of the world gets fucked on prices like this. We were the only country who got away with it because we were America. In Japan, these fuckers had to buy Final Fantasy 13 for like $120. There are no standard game prices in most parts of the world because not all games are the same. Like, just because you bought Persona 5 for $60 doesn't mean Metaphor was going to be 60. Hence why it was 70. Spoilers, everybody. Persona 6 is definitely not going to cost you $70. It's going to cost you more. So, I think it sucks in the grand scheme of I don't want to pay more for games all the time, and I totally get it. Shit's expensive, and I bought Assassin's Creed and Xenoblade on the same week, and I was like, holy fuck, I'm not buying any other games till the Switch 2 at this rate. This fucking sucks. But that's really rare for me, because even me, someone who used to buy games all the time, I have to be a lot more frugal with my spending, and I want my money to go into other things. even me, where my spending habits on video games have changed drastically, I still look at Mario Kart for $80, and I know with confidence, and the same thing will happen with GTA 6 no matter what it costs, where I know that those games are going to be worth the cost. And I think to me, I know, depending on the developer, in most cases, when a game price makes sense, I will be there to support it if I am financially able to. Looking at stuff like Donkey Kong, that's 70. Looking at things like Xenoblade being 60. Looking at stuff like Death Stranding 2 being 70. These all make sense to me versus like the bang for your buck and everything that I'm getting. I don't think it's something that's incredibly unfair. I think that you can definitely have a conversation about it. But there are so many people, especially that I always see online, that are like, any game that's a penny over $60 is highway fucking robbery. I'm going to emulate and I'm going to steal all this. I'm like, bro, I don't know what fucking world you're living in. Like, and it might just be that I'm so out of touch with it, but it is just so funny. Of like, how can we be like so self unaware of how the world works and still be expecting games to be charging us prices that we were buying fucking Halo 3 with in 2007? So that is just me. I want to get into the conversation of like physical versus digital prices because there's been a lot of back and forth on those for it. But like, I genuinely think, at least with Mario Kart 8 and kind of the conversation that started, I saw that and I had some sticker shock, but I was like, woof, that's expensive. But it didn't make me go, oh, I'm not fucking buying this thing. But like, May, like, how do you feel about it?
Pretty much the same way. I mean, like, we've already had the jump to 70, and like we already knew it was going to keep going up higher.
And
So it's just like,
that was 5 years
yeah,
ago. People act like we just went to 70. We got to 70 late. I feel like we should have been at 70 in the PS4 era.
so I mean, for me, I'm just like I said before, I'm not going to be getting that many games. And like if it's a game like Xenoblade or something like Paper Mario or something I'm really interested in, yeah, I'm gonna put out the $90 and stuff. Like, who cares at this point? Like,
Your cat's very opinionated about these
oh my god, you
prices.
can hear her.
No, it's good. I only heard one. You're good. She's like, let me tell you about these goddamn Nintendo prices.
Yeah, I'm just like when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, and like I was just like, whatever. Like, just got to get my money.
Did you see the thing that was really interesting about the Japanese Nintendo Switch being region
Yeah,
locked?
that I didn't like.
Was, I think it's fucked, but I think especially because people don't understand this, Japan isn't. Like, if you think you know how fucked the yen is, you clearly have not visited Japan. So, Nintendo historically has never charged over 400,000 yen for a system.
Hmm.
Because it would just be so drastically expensive. It would like they just wouldn't be able to do it like for a baseline system. Not like saying like an OLED or anything else like that. Like a base normal Nintendo system has never cost more than over 400,000 yen. And when they announced that the base model Switch was going to be, I forget the number, it's like 28,000 yen or something. It's about 350-ish bucks for Japan. They have two models. There's a Japanese only model that's around 350 bucks, and then for about 450, which is like what we're paying here, you get the region free model. And what's funny is there's been a lot of like confusion or people just not understanding this. The Nintendo Switch 2 is not region locked. Only the Japanese version is region locked if you buy the cheaper one. Like the version that's 450 for us is the same one that's 450 for them. It's just that thing of the yen is so weak, they're trying to deter people from importing it, and because they know that if they sell this version at a loss in Japan, they will sell more games and make up the money there. But if they allow it to be open region free, everyone will buy it cheaper and then sell it to Americans for $100 less, and no one will buy the domestic units, completely fucking the market. So it's a lot of complicated factors into it, especially if you don't follow Japanese economics, and especially if you don't follow like Nintendo pricing history in Japan, which most people realistically, especially in the West, don't do. Um, Trust me, if they were actually getting rid of region locking on all systems, that would be huge. Because especially with how much importing is a big deal. Because it's not only like it's just like, oh, it's physically region locked. Like, you can't change the system from Japanese to anything else. The more crazy part is, you, on the Japanese region locked Switch 2, you can't even access any other eShop besides Japan. Like, it's that hard
Hmm.
locked. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. But again, yeah, if you're paying over $100 less for a system, fuck, makes sense to me. Um, if you want to complain about prices, be Canadian for a day. Did you see how much the Switch 2 is in
No.
Canada? It's over $700.
Fuck.
Just every Canadian retailer just putting themselves out like a dog.
Unfortunate for them.
I mean, and what's wild is with everything still happening, like still not even rolled out with the tariffs and stuff, there's still a chance that the prices could go up. Because right now, especially the way the systems have been for the last almost 7 years, we haven't had a system that got a price drop since the PlayStation 4 base system. PS4 Pro, PS5, Xbox Series, all of these systems, Nintendo Switch even, never once have had a price drop. Some have had a price increase. So, like, the age of price dropping consoles just does not happen anymore. Going back to games, though, I think there is legitimate room for criticism and anger when it comes to the game upgrades. So I think the new games, like the launch games we talked about, I think honestly they're actually pretty fairly priced. Mario being 80, totally fair. Street Fighter being 60, I think is actually kind of shockingly low, especially because Street Fighter 6 is with the first two season passes, which both of those sell for about 25 to 30 bucks a pop. So you're getting like $120 a game for 60 bucks. Mario being 70, not Mario, Donkey Kong being 70 totally makes sense, especially like there were some people who bitched about it with Tears of the Kingdom, but not really that many. Bravely Default, that's a 3DS game. Guess what? 40 bucks. Bravely Default HD literally is being charged for the same price that it was released on the 3DS. Isn't that insane?
It actually is, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's 40 bucks for that. The ones where these start looking a little yucky. So we finally have these prices. We don't have official confirmation in the West for how much game upgrades will be. So if there's a game that released on the Switch 1 and has a Nintendo Switch 2 version that is a brand new SKU, you can upgrade into it, but upgrade prices differ from game to game because some games have content more versus the other. So these prices are at least official for the retail copies of these, which I find very interesting. The cheapest one, and it's the only one that's this cheap, is Breath of the Wild. So if you want a physical copy of Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2, 70 bucks.
Wow.
And I'm like, it will. I think that is only worth it physically if that includes the DLC. And if it doesn't, I will be so shocked. Because remember, there's like $20 worth of DLC in Breath of the Wild. This one is definitely going to give people sticker shock, all three of these. Tears of the Kingdom, remember, no added real new content to Tears of the Kingdom. 80 bucks. And it seems fucked until you realize it's the lowest price upgrade possible, which is $10, because the base game still goes for 70. Because it's that thing of like the sticker shock is more fucked than it really is when you think about it. But also because Nintendo games never go on sale, it's that thing of like, oh, it's still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other ones look a little bit better, but it still is rough. Mario Party Jamboree has the whole Mario TV thing and all the other new minigames. That's also 80. Honestly, I think that's a little steep, but considering how much everyone loved Mario Party Jamboree, it's pretty solid. The one where I'm genuinely curious how this will do is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. because that is $20 more. But we don't know how big that expansion is. I feel like, I don't know, like Kirby re-release expansions kind of can range from like the 4 to 8 hour mark for it. And if it wasn't for the fact that Kirby, like, did you ever play Forgotten Lands?
Mm-mm. I just watched someone else play it.
It legitimately like one of my favorite games of all time. I was so shocked at how good that was for their first time doing a 3D platformer that I was like, I'm in. But what's funny is normally for me, I'm the kind of person who would double dip for a physical copy again. But like just trying to make sense of these prices, and especially with where I'm at right now, I'm like, damn, I already own these games physically. I'm kind of leaning into the camp of I think I should just pay the like $10 or $20 digital upgrade fee. Because it's like I'm still using my cartridge. I'm still putting it in. It just sucks because like I would rather have them on my shelf as a physical game to put in there, and it might depend. I might, especially if the launch year is not that heavy,
Mm-hmm.
pick them up because I think the Switch 2, at the end of the day, will have more brand new games versus re-releases that you're double dipping with. It just kind of depends on which ones are there. I think if anything, you're more just getting bit in the ass if you're someone who was an early adopter. If you never bought any of these games, it's a total steal. Like, if you've somehow never played Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, great job. You now have the best version of this game to play. So, that is a trickier one with it. Like, I think the games they're doing it with make sense. And obviously, for newer games, like, again, kind of going back to the if you haven't played these, you're not fucked. Metroid, Pokemon, all those are going to be games with enhanced versions. But those come out the same day as their Switch 1 version. So, you're not going to have that FOMO.
Yeah.
So that's just the tricky part of like how many games are we doing this with and how much is this going to kind of bite you in the butt. So like for the ones that we know about, how do you feel about the pricing for the re-released games and what they include?
I guess just neutral. I mean, like it is kind of just like but at this point, it's whatever. I mean, like it isn't the upgrades for like PlayStation 5 $10 usually.
Yes, and it's just the trickier one of those is those at least kind of had a case of some were free, some were paid, whatever. The other one that's kind of also interesting with it, with the physical pricing, is the confusion. And I don't know if you've seen this one, but this one's been so annoying to see people uh, get either just completely wrong or just spreading misinformation. Have you seen this confusion with the game card key?
The like game sharing thing where you like send it out for 2 weeks.
No, that would make more sense. There was a thing released today on the Nintendo website about game card keys. So if you look at a Nintendo Switch cart, and right now this is only on third-party games, like so if you look at Street Fighter or Bravely Default, at the bottom there's like a little key symbol with the tag on it that says game key card. And what it is it is a physical cart with some data, but you have to download the majority of the game. Which Nintendo Switch has had games like that before. Wolfenstein, Doom, a bunch of those were like that. We've had this before. For some reason, people took this being on the website as all physical Nintendo carts will have nothing on the cart. Which is not true. Cyberpunk will be complete, all the Nintendo games will be complete, and I'm sure a lot of it will be games that are fully completely there. But like for whatever reason during the confusion of all the news today, this whole story has been going out of people just being like, "Oh, all physical games are fucked now." And I'm like, I think the precedent at launch doesn't look good because outside of CD Projekt Red, I think Capcom, I don't know. Capcom is a little less. I'm less mad at Street Fighter 6 because Street Fighter 6 has 3 years of DLC already, and it will still be getting updates. So, like, I'm not expecting that game to be fully complete on the cartridge. Something like Bravely fucking Default not being on the cartridge, I think is fucked. That's a game that's 11 gigs. You could definitely have done that. It's just a way for them to save some money, which is why they don't do it. So, I think the conversation just needs to have more fans talking about it Because right now, it's a thing we already live with the Nintendo Switch 1. I just think if we get stuff like Raidou 2, like if Raidou 1 on Switch has the full game, but Raidou 2 on Switch, you still have to download, that will be shit that stops people from buying it. Like, that will make people mad.
I would imagine so.
So, that one is mostly just people need to voice their opinion. Very kind of related, but not really. May, have you seen what the temporary box art layout for Nintendo Switch 2 games look like with the red case?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm going to send you a picture, and I want you to know right now, oh my god, every part of my graphic design degree hurts when I see this layout for these boxes. They look fucking horrendous. And I bet it'll take you 3 seconds to see why. What's the first thing you notice with these boxes?
Some of them just don't. They look cut off.
Could there be any more dead
Yeah,
space on the top of the box?
that's weird.
Like I'm weirdly not someone who hates the Switch 2 logo. I've definitely learned to like it a lot more than when it was first announced. I think that being how they use their box is so fucked.
Like compared to the original boxes, like I have Xenoblade 2 right here.
It's clean.
Like it's in the corner, the Nintendo Switch like logo. It's weird that they decided to go this way. This kind of looks like a
They're
fucking
doing.
best of like type game, you know?
Do you remember the box art for new 3DS
Yeah.
games when they were only on new 3DS? It's like that, but with more dead space somehow. So the extra fucked one, if you try to Google it, they're the best comparison right now because we already know the box art. Look at the box art for Metroid Prime 4 on Switch versus Switch 2. It is so ugly by comparison, and you're missing and you're losing so much art that it's like, oh dear God Almighty, um,
Ew.
we we've got some time left. Nintendo needs to be bullied into changing this. I don't want an entire generation of physical games with that much dead fucking air. It's so
Yeah, they
bad.
definitely need to fix that.
I just like when I saw one listing with that image, I was like, okay, it looks like a temp image. And it's been going around so much that I'm like, oh my god, this needs, like, please, this needs to change. Because, like, it, I think it's like, it's one thing that it's like, I don't really like it. But at the same time, it's kind of like you mentioned, but by comparison of the Switch 1, like, the Switch 1 has better box art layout than 2. But obviously, we're going to be wanting to buy Switch 2 over Switch 1. So it's like, what is the logic behind this?
Like the best they could have done was just turn the case itself like red, and then just had the two like Switch 2 logo in there instead of having it like
Even,
this.
I mean, I feel like even if they wanted to just be cheeky and just keep the square but put it in a different
Yeah,
corner. Because obviously, I think their big thing is they don't want to just keep it as a red square in the corner because it looks so similar to the Switch 1. But it's like, there has to be a better solution than the banner. The banner look just is so ugly.
ugh.
Oh my god.
I mean, I feel
Yeah,
yeah, they
but
should just go with like the red, like it'd be the opposite. I mean, because we already have like the PlayStation like blue, Xbox green. Like, just give us the red case.
you know, it's really funny. I remember my biggest issue when the PS5 announced its physical stuff. I loved the white, but the one that took me forever to get used to was that it still used a blue case. I was like, why are we still using these fucking blue cases? But it doesn't bother me as much now, whereas, like, I got over it with the PS5. I don't know if I have it in me to get over the Switch 2 cases, how it looks that bad. I will say, though, whoever convinced them to make the cartridges red, 10 out of 10 idea. I love that. That's a great way to differentiate the
Yeah,
cart.
I thought they were gonna go with the lazy route and just have like a slanted like corner.
Like like do a dented 3DS
Yeah.
look. Oh my god. The only other last one I wanted to bring up, and this one kind of went into pricing, but there was a lot of confusion with this. As of now, and this could still change, there was some confusion that people thought physical games were going to cost more than digital. Because there were listings saying that Mario Kart World might be $90 physical. And right now, at all the major retailers, it's showing as 80 everywhere. I think that either might have been some confusion or like the Canadian pricing getting mixed in with the American one. So it's hard to really say. But also, we've seen that before. It's been a long time. But do you remember, May, back when the PlayStation Vita came out, Sony actually did that for all their first party games. Digital was cheaper than
Yeah,
physical.
I remember that. That was like the biggest
And
thing, just like
And I think in this grand scheme of things, it makes sense when it kind of gets to that negligible number of what you expect it to cost is the physical price, and then it's cheaper by a couple of bucks on digital. Versus what Mario Kart did, of people had sticker shock at 80 and said, fuck you, buy me dinner next time before you fuck me like that, Nintendo, when they saw 90. Because I think if Nintendo straight up is just doing a full $10 bump on games, which right now it does not look like they're doing, I think if they do that, that will piss a lot of people off. Just in the sense of like, you're already making so much money on these games, even with the increased price. Like you can have it one of two ways. I think ironically, if we kept prices the same and still had the $10 increase, they wouldn't be as mad versus because they had both, you
hmm
know? I think because we had the $10 increase scare and the $20 price increase from 60 made a lot of people just be like, "Oh, well now you're greedy." Which again, spoilers, American companies are greedy. I mean, I shouldn't even say
corpos.
American companies. All corporations are greedy. All corporations want to make money. Um, I just think, especially with how many different countries have information, because there were a lot of people who were like, "Well, why wasn't this in the direct?" I'm like, do you know how confusing it would try to be in an hour plus long direct for someone to be like, okay, well, it's 450 here unless you speak Japanese and you live here, and then if you live here, it's actually going to be $700. It's like that shit just gets confusing. I think the problem was the rollout with the information was just sporadic and spread all throughout the day and just confused everybody fucking immensely. But 3 hours later, that's my brain. I'm completely fried right now, in case you cannot tell. But how do you have any final Switch 2 thoughts you want to put into the ether?
Not really, but there is two things I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, please.
One of them was, how would you feel if the voice for Donkey Kong was Seth Rogen in the game?
I know it's not, so that makes it hard for me to try and like change it in my brain. If it was, I would ironically find it funny, but criticize it
Mm.
immensely. I wouldn't hate it, but it would make the game a worse product for it. What was your other one?
The other one was about Metaphor, actually. So it's like a
I'm
completely.
shocked. I'm shocked that wasn't announced. By the way, I was like sure that they were going to launch Metaphor on this
I
thing.
imagine they're gonna wait until like Atlas does one more thing so they can get that like all of the hype towards that.
That one more dungeon
Yeah,
edition.
but it was mostly just like because I remember listening to your Metaphor podcast with Waffles, and I was just like, you guys talked about how this game just feels complete, and yeah, I agree with that. Like it feels like there's really not much they can add to it. Um, but I was like, how would you feel if they just went full on like all of the like negative like persona tropes that people talk about, and they did that for a DLC, and it was like a beach party like DLC.
Oh, like adding the romance
Yeah, like
to it.
the whole DLC is about him finding a wife or a queen or whatever.
Ironically, I'd be like one of two sides. If it was added to like a Game of the Year edition re-release, no complaints. If it was like a $5 to $10 add-on, I would be like unless this is really funny or creatively interesting, complete waste of fucking
Mm.
time. That's probably where I would be with it. Especially just because the only thing that game should add is the one dungeon that was clearly cut.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if they add anything that's not that, you're just going to piss everybody off. It's like imagine you went to a party and you made this great meal, but there wasn't any sides. And you had told everybody that there were going to be sides here, you just didn't have time to finish them. And then you came back the next week with the exact same meal, but instead of sides, you brought a fucking chicken pot pie. And it'd be like,
Still good, but like,
well, thanks for the fucking pie, but where'd the fucking sides go?
but yeah, I mean, like
So it'd
they
be
could do something like that.
be like
Just
that.
like they go there, they get trapped, and it's like you got to find your true love or some shit like that.
Oh, I see. I was thinking even lower common denominator. Do you remember the DLC for Apocalypse? I was thinking it was just gonna be like that dog shit.
For the DLC for Apocalypse.
They literally had a "Let's go to the beach" mission
Oh,
as
with
DLC in Apocalypse.
Mephisto. I never played that the DLC for that one.
I'd recommend you go to the eShop and download it if they didn't fucking remove it. But it's not worth playing. It was pretty garbage. No, but I feel like that would be the case of like that metaphor is just in a weird case of like I think you could do that with any other game and it'd be a little bit more agreeable to throw something even like low hanging fruit in. Like even like no joke, they could do Tokyo Mirage Sessions Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and the only thing is they add back in the missing Hot Springs DLC and the Vagina Bones, and people would be more excited.
The game's not woke anymore.
Oh my god! Oh, thank God that released in a pre-Grums era. I do not fucking need that ass tard's opinion on Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
They took away the vagina bones.
Oh my God, it was bad like back when that was releasing, but I can't believe it's actually worse now. That's fucked to think about that.
Yeah, to think it all started because of just one stupid ass article.
Well, speaking of stupid ass articles, I gotta get my articles of clothing off of my body and hop myself into the shower in an attempt to try and wake up because we've been doing this for almost 4 hours.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I blame the 30-minute pre-ramble that I definitely am guilty of. But May, where can people find you / where do you want to be found online?
You can find me at twitch.tv, Melefe, also Melefe on YouTube, and Melefe on Bluesky.
You're skeeting over there?
You just do a little skeeting.
We do we do a little
Not
skeeting.
too much. Usually it's just me like talking about suicide and then just like whatever else is going on in my life.
The occasional skeet suicide
Yeah,
message
like, oh
combo.
shit, I'm gonna blow
Everyone's
my fucking
favorite.
head off today.
And then, see, you're going to do it, and then the vagina bones come out, and you go, you know what? Not
No,
today.
it's
like-
when
it's like-
Xenoblade, like something Xenoblade comes out. It's like I gotta keep going.
Just to prepare yourself, if you do off yourself in a way that we do not agree with, we will do all the music at your funeral as the most annoying songs from Xenoblade X.
I don't think there is an annoying song from that game.
Well, I mean for everyone who's going to have to be in attendance to your open casket, because it will just be an open casket funeral with, yeah. May died doing what they loved. Jerking off to Tom and Jerry Rule 34 porn on r/not my furries. Yeah.
Yo, that's on them. Like, I'll be fucking dead. So
Just be like, just record some for me. I want to have this on.
yeah.
We can put this on r/cringe later.
Just gave me an idea.
Oh no.
It's like lock the doors.
But everybody, thank you for hopefully not doing any autoerotic asphyxiation tonight and enjoying the podcast. if you enjoyed this for some goddamn reason, you can support the show by going to patreon.com/SMTN, just like all of our wonderful, amazing executive producers do. If you like getting the show early or having giveaways and stuff like that, the dollar and up tier is the best option of supporting us. And if you would like me to say your name at the end of every episode, for a whopping $5, you get to be an executive producer just like Rip the Jacker, Twist, John Massey, Jesus Coon, Crazy Sloth, Michael Wilson, Budweiser Tall Cans, Carlos Hernandez, Cross Run Run, Jagingus, Goro Cero, Solaire, Stephen Yip, and Patrick Dissart all do. Thank you all so much for the support. I really can't do it without you. And also thank you to all of our new patrons who joined for the pledge drive. Quick update for the shipping. My goal is I've got basically everyone entered. I just need to reach out and get your addresses, and then goal is to have them shipped out or starting to ship out by this weekend. So hopefully everyone will get their cards and all their other fun stuff there. But if you enjoy the show and want to support for free, if you listen on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, please don't forget liking, commenting, and just doing any form of interactions, especially like reviews. That stuff super, super helps and really, really does help bring new people into the show, which helps me do this and hopefully not stop after very long 13 years of mediocrity. So, thank you all for listening. May, thank you for talking with me for way, way, way too long.
Thanks for having me on.
That was without us even bringing up Dragon Quest. That was a whole 3 hours we could have talked about Dragon Quest.
Cool game. Excited because they added a new character to the second game.
I'm just so glad we didn't have to fucking talk about goddamn fucking Persona 5X. That's all I wanted. It's coming to Steam. Chinese Steam. That's the worst kind of Steam there is. You think normal Steam is bad? Wait till you see Xi Jinping's Steam page.
They got like 7 games on there.
Yeah, it's true. At least half of them are MiHoYo games, and all of them will reduce your social credit score. Also, thank God for the Nintendo Direct and Raidou coming out for us to not have to talk about Kazuma Kaneko's AI card game. Which, now that I've said that, I will probably talk about it next week. But yes, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, May, for putting up with me for so long.
Same.
And we'll see you all next week. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.